We are waiting for Facebook to start. We are active on Rumble and active on YouTube. Good morning, Rumble and YouTube, Facebook. What are you doing? We're waiting. LinkedIn. We are active. Instagram. We are active. Good morning. TikTok. We are active. Good morning over there on TikTok. Tell me where you are checking in. Give me some locations, country, state, city. Tell me where you are checking in from this morning, so we know where everybody is at. We are going to get started very, very shortly because we got a lot to talk about here today. We are talking about this NFL situation again, but again, as usual, per usual, is a bigger conversation than just the NFL. It's bigger than just about the NFL. But since the NFL has re-sparked this conversation, I guess for lack of a better term, we are going to use it as we need to use it. So what is going on with Facebook? Facebook still has not started. I don't know what the problem is. It says live video is starting, but the video has not started. So we're just waiting for Facebook to get active here. And I'm looking over on all right, what is going on? All right, it says it's live on Facebook, but I don't think it's live. I don't know what the issue is. We'll see if this starts. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Cynthia checking in from South Carolina. Good morning to you. Montego Bay, Jamaica. Good morning to Montego Bay. I remember growing up in Philadelphia, they would always do these excursions, these getaways that they would sell on the radio, or they would do a giveaway. Like if you enter the drawing, you could win a trip to, and it would always be to Montego Bay, Jamaica. That would always be the place. Montego Bay, Jamaica. So shout out to Montego Bay. I've never been to Montego Bay, but it must be a beautiful place. That's why they were always sending people there on their little radio sweepstakes. Dave checking in from Ohio. Shout out to Ohio. Nikki checking in. Good morning to you, Nikki. What we're going to talk about here today is a little bit more on this NFL conversation. Actually, not a little bit, a lot more on this NFL conversation, which again is bigger than just it being about the NFL. This is not really about the NFL. It became a race conversation because of what happened over this past weekend. I think most of you are familiar with what happened. Was the NFL draft just happened this past weekend, and nobody's really talking about the NFL draft itself, which is a big event. They stretched it out to 3 days now? So they made the NFL draft a 3-day event because they wanted to milk all the TV exposure and all of that from the NFL draft. But nobody's really talking about the draft. Nobody's really talking about most of the players who got picked. Everybody's talking about one player who went later in the draft than everyone was expecting, and most people were expecting. This kid is named Shedeur Sanders. He is the son of NFL legend and Hall of Famer Deion Sanders, who was my first favorite athlete, even though I didn't even play football or baseball. But Deion was the guy back especially mostly in the 90s, was his heyday. And his son Shedeur is a quarterback, not a defensive back like Deion was. His son played for his dad in high school, played for his dad in college. They were at Jackson State, which is an HBCU, I believe, Division 1A or FCS. I don't know what they call it. But whatever that was, Jackson State. Then Deion got the job at Colorado. So Shedeur has played for Deion at Colorado for the last 2 years. And this year he entered the NFL draft. And some people said he was going to be a first-round pick. Some said maybe second round. Some said maybe top 5. Some said maybe he's the best. He ended up going in the 5th round, the 144th pick of the NFL draft, which was surprising to, I would say, a lot of people that he went in the 5th round, 144th pick in the draft, being that he was allegedly supposed to be one of the most talented players in the draft. Because the NFL draft is all about talent and projecting how good a player is going to be into the future. And you pick a player who you think is going to be the best in the future, generally speaking, for where they are chosen. So what happened here is Shedeur Sanders goes in the 5th round, and a bunch of people, mostly black people, but some white people as well, were very upset. I don't know who exactly they're upset at because there's no one to really be upset at, but people are upset at the situation of this black kid going in the 5th round of the NFL draft. And we're going to get to the ridiculousness of this because it is ridiculous. And people saying, well, they did it for these reasons, or they just wanted to humble this guy. They want to humble this kid because he is confident, which makes no sense. Humble him because he is, quote unquote, already rich. Also doesn't make quite much sense. Humble him because his star is shining so bright that it makes people uncomfortable, and they just want to humble him. So that's the reason why all 32 teams in the NFL allegedly colluded to, hey, let's not pick Shedeur Sanders, and they all colluded to not pick Shedeur Sanders and make sure he fell to the 5th round just to humble him in some way, shape, or form. None of this makes any sense, but a lot of people believe it. So I'm going to address all of this and all the points that go around it in a moment or in today. So first of all, let me introduce myself and tell you how we do here over here. My name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year professional athlete. I'm the author of 41 books. I've done 4 TEDx talks. I own this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. What we do here is we help professional service entrepreneurs systematize and scale their businesses to the 6 and 7-figure levels. You can learn more about working with me by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com. There are links for that in whatever profile or platform you happen to be watching me on. And I want to make sure we got Facebook working, but we are having issues here and this is not working. I want to make sure this live stream is working on Facebook. So give me one moment to make sure this is working. I will tell you a little bit of the housekeeping of what we do here while this is going on. I don't think this is active. What the hell is going on Facebook? All right. But anyway, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take about 50 minutes or so, maybe less, not more. And I'm going to go maybe more, actually. And I'm going to go over the points that I need to make here today. And then what I'll do is I will open the floor up for discussion. So any of you want to discuss anything that I've said, or you have a comment or a pushback or an agreement on anything that I say during this time, then please just leave it in the comments if you're watching on anything other than TikTok. If you're on TikTok, my strong suggestion, this is just my suggestion, is that you wait until I'm finished with all my points before you leave your comment, because I'm not going to see it while I'm talking unless I actually ask for comments. Then you can leave that comment, I'll see it. But then when I'm done, I'm going to open the floor for discussion. I'll actually be looking at the comments and I will read the comments out loud and I will actually engage with whatever it is that you say. You do not have to agree with me. You do not have to see things the same way that I see them. I will engage with whatever comments, even the disagreements. So all that being said, let's get into it. So first of all, Deion Sanders. I told you he was my favorite athlete when I first started playing sports. We are live on Facebook now. So Facebook, y'all missed the intro. That's okay. You can watch the replay on YouTube. And Deion Sanders was, excuse me, he was the 5th overall pick in the 1989 NFL draft. Deion Sanders, his dad. And what people are saying is, oh, well, they were just trying to humble Shedeur Sanders because he is just so confident and he so much believes in himself that they needed to humble Shedeur Sanders. And what they really have a problem with is not Shedeur, but they got a problem with Deion. So they had to humble Deion because he was too flashy and too brash. And he believed in himself too much and he had too much money. So they had to somehow, some way put him down and put him in his place. Here's Deion Sanders at the 1989 NFL draft. Oh, you see this? They said the Shedeur is too flashy, too confident, too cocky. So that's the reason why instead of being a top pick, like he was allegedly, quote unquote, supposed to be, he ended up being a 5th round pick, 144th pick. Y'all see that over there? YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, LinkedIn. Y'all see this? Instagram. Y'all see this? There's Deion Sanders, 1989 NFL draft. He was the number 5 pick, not the 5th round, number 5. So Deion was the number 5 pick in the draft. His son was the 144th pick in the draft. But they say they need to humble Shedeur because he was too cocky. And when you come into the NFL too confident and too cocky, then they basically collude to make you go down in the draft because you can't be too confident coming to the NFL draft. This guy was a number 5 pick in the draft. This guy right here, number 5 pick in the draft. So again, doesn't make any sense. This is how Deion looked when he first came to the league. He wasn't even rich. All right? I don't think he had any money. This is before you could make. This is no name, image, and likeness in 1989, ladies and gentlemen. You just played in college and you ain't had no money. He didn't get money till he got to the NFL. I don't know where he got that jewelry from. Maybe it's real, maybe it's not. Maybe he got an advance from his agent. But the point being, Deion Sanders was more flashy, more out there, and more outspoken than his son is. And he still was number 5 pick in the draft. Why? Because Deion Sanders is more talented than his son. That's just what it is. Sometimes it happens one way, sometimes it happens another way. There are people out there, for example, there's an NBA player named Jalen Brunson. Y'all heard of this guy? He plays for New York Knicks, Jalen Brunson. His dad played in the NBA. His dad's name was Rick Brunson. I remember Rick because Rick Brunson played at Temple, and I'm from Philadelphia. I live in Miami now, but I'm from Philadelphia. And Rick Brunson, when he played in the NBA, he was a serviceable player. He was a role player, never more than that. And Rick Brunson wasn't a super talented guy. He was talented enough to play D1 basketball and make the NBA, but he was never close to being an all-star. Jalen Brunson is an all-star in the NBA. Jalen Brunson has more basketball talent than his father had. Now, sometimes it works that way, where you have more talent than your dad. Steph Curry, for example, has more talent than his dad had. But then you have other examples where the dad is more talented than the son. Michael Jordan, for example, had kids who played basketball. Shaquille O'Neal has kids who play basketball. Dwayne Wade has a son who plays basketball. There are many examples where the dad is just more talented than the son. Deion Sanders is more talented than his son. It's not that his son can't play at all. It's just his son ain't as talented as his dad. So this whole concept of they're trying to push him back because he's cocky. Again, look at his dad when he got drafted. All right, he was pretty cocky. Deion was pretty arrogant, and Deion was a lot more outspoken than Shedeur Sanders. I've barely even heard Shedeur Sanders talk. I don't even know what his voice sounds like for the most part. He doesn't talk that much. Now, he has the persona. He shows his watch after the games, and he wears the jewelry, and probably gets a lot of money from name, image, and likeness. But I haven't really heard the kid talk. I hear Deion talking more than I hear his son talking. So people are saying, well, that's why they're trying to push him back. But it doesn't add up when you look at exactly what happened with his dad. When you have talent, none of that stuff matters, especially in the sports world. When you have talent and you can play and you are important, what does important mean? Important means having a significant impact on success. You ever hear that saying that it's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice? All right, that's a nonsense concept. You know why it's nonsense? Because when you are important, which again is having a strong impact on success. When you have a strong impact on success, you don't have to be nice if you don't want to. But as a matter of fact, when you are important, all the things you do are nice. Why? Because you're having an impact on people's success. Was Deion a nice guy when he played? I don't know. Doesn't matter? No. Why? Because he was important. Because he was so important, all the teams who paid him money, they didn't care if he was nice or not. Not nice in like a friendly way. Nice as in he was nice on the football field was why they kept giving him money. So you don't have to be nice when you're important. But when you are important, usually you get to be nice because you can choose to be however you want to be. What happens is this whole concept of is important to be nice rather than is important to be important is people who are unimportant came up with this to cope for the fact that they're not important. So they said, well, I guess I got to be a nice person. Well, of course you got to be nice when you're not important. You don't have a choice. That's just what it is. When you're not important, you have no choice but to be nice. You can't be a jerk and be unimportant. You're going to be out of a job and you're not going to have any friends. But if you're important, you don't have to be nice if you don't want to, but you can be nice because why? You're important. What reason do you have to be a jerk? You don't need to be. Anyway, back to what we're talking about. So the apple did fall from the tree from the fifth pick to the 144th pick. Didn't fall that far. I mean, we're still talking about the damn NFL here. So let's not get carried away, ladies and gentlemen, when we say that this is some type of tragedy against a black American. Shedeur Sanders got drafted into the NFL. Do y'all understand that fewer than 1% of people who ever pick up a football ever get to play their sport at a professional level? Fewer than 1% of people who actually play any sport, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, golf, tennis, name every other sport. Fewer than 1% of people who ever play sports, period, or just 1% of people, period, ever play a sport at the professional level. 1% of people who play the sport. Actually, that's even more impressive. Name a sport. Fewer than 1% of people ever get a chance to play. Shedeur Sanders has not officially played in the NFL yet, but I think we can all agree he's going to get a chance to play. As long as he's alive in August and September, he's going to play in the NFL. And he's got his chance. Now, some people are mad about where he got drafted, which is where this whole conversation comes from. And what's happened over the weekend from his falling out of the first round on Thursday, which was a surprise, but then it got crazier when he fell out of the second and third rounds, right? It was the second and third rounds on Friday, and then finally on Saturday he gets picked by the Cleveland Browns. To prove yourself pro-black, this is what I say, and I'm saying this in a sarcastic way, but I'm also being serious. To prove yourself that you're pro-black over the weekend, you got to be mad that a 21-year-old kid who is a Nepo baby. Nepo baby means you're a baby of nepotism, meaning your parents already have status and finances and resources. Deion Sanders has status, finances, and resources, meaning, and he showered it on his kids. So his kids, it's not like they're struggling. It's not like they're broke. They're not from the projects. Dad is already rich. All right, so he's a Nepo baby, and he has a Hall of Fame dad who is already famous and, again, already known for being rich. All this kid had to do, if we really put this in perspective, ladies and gentlemen, Shedeur Sanders had to wait 2 days, longer than expected, to get his first job offer out of college. Let me take a sip of water while you process that. Shedeur Sanders had to wait 2 days longer than expected to get his first job offer out of college. And the job offer is for him to go get paid more than 99% of people get paid to do something that 99% of people never get a chance to do. And he already comes from a family of status and privilege. This is what black people are supposed to be mad about. You're black. You prove that you're pro-black by being mad about this. This is what you want to be mad about. You're not mad about homelessness. You're not mad about healthcare. You're not mad about whether people can get food, clothing, and shelter for themselves. You're not worried about SNAP benefits and housing for those who are housing insecure or food insecure, or these other terms that people are throwing around. This is what people want to get excited about, is that a black kid coming from a rich family, had to wait 2 days longer than expected to get his first job offer out of college so that they could pay him more millions on top of the millions that he allegedly already has. And this is what everybody's supposed to be mad about. And this is why everyone thinks the NFL is colluding against him. So the NFL is colluding against a 21-year-old black kid who comes from a rich family. We're just going to give you a few less millions to start your career than you would have got had we given you the job offer 2 days ago. Now you're just going to make a few less millions than you would have made it before. That's what we're supposed to be mad about. This is what black people are supposed to prove their blackness by getting upset about this. Again, and when you put it in this perspective, it sounds completely different than what you hear on the internet, right? From this perspective, it sounds a whole lot different. There are black people out there who are really struggling, really not sure how they're going to pay their rent, not really sure how they're going to keep food on the table of their kids, really not sure what life is going to look like 6 weeks from now or let alone 6 months from now. But to prove that you're black, you got to be upset that a rich kid with a rich dad got to wait 2 days to start doing a job that 1% of people ever get a chance to do. And if you don't, then you must be tap dancing for the white man, according to what I've heard on social media over the weekend. When I say social media, I'm specifically talking about X, because that's the only place where I engage with all of this stuff. And again, 1% of people ever get a chance to play a professional sport, ladies and gentlemen. 1%, fewer than 1%. And I don't care what, name any sport. 1% of people get a chance to make a full-time income playing a sport for a living. He got his chance on the third day of the draft. I mean, not the first day, like the elite players, I guess. He got his chance on the third day. How many days did you have to wait between the time you got out of college to where you got your first job? How many days was it? Put the number in the comments. All of you who went to college, when you left college, whether you graduated or not, I don't think Shedeur Sanders graduated from college yet. I don't know if he's even a senior. Doesn't even matter, does it? Not really. But when you left college or you stopped going to school, how many days did you have to wait? How many days was it between the time you stopped going to school and the time you got your first job offer? How many days was it? Do you even know how many days it was? It was, most of you, it might have been months or years or weeks. You weren't even counting the days. This kid had to wait 2 days. 2 days. Longer than expected. I mean, had he been a first round pick, he would have got a job offer the first day. He just got his job offer on the third day. And again, this is a tragedy all of a sudden. So I see months, years. Nobody gave me a number of days. So Vereen says 60 days. So you might be the best. All right, 60 days. You got 2 months. That's about 60 days. Iota got my job junior year. Okay, 6 months. 2 days cost him $49 million. All right, let's talk about that since you brought it up. 2 days did not cost him $49 million because he never had the money. You can't say it cost you something you never had the money. He never had $49 million, so he didn't lose it. He never had it. He would have made $49 million more, let's just say, just using your number, had he been chosen on the first day, but he didn't get chosen on the first day. So not like he got chosen and then they said, oops, never mind, we're going to choose you on the third day. That never happened. So he never lost the money. And people throw these hypothetical numbers out there when it comes to money as if it was real money. That's not real money. He never had it, so it's not his. The race baiters and the race hustlers. I call these people race hustlers. Who are the race hustlers? These are the people who take any subject that happens to involve somebody, usually black, and they find a way to make it a negative. They find a way to make a negative race angle out of it, and then they promote it and push it to get more people to buy into the negative race angle. And this works very well because there's a lot of black people who will gladly and quickly buy into this stuff because it doesn't require intellect, it doesn't require depth of thought, it doesn't require critical thinking, and all it requires is you to get emotional about the subject and just keep repeating the nonsense. This is why race hustling is a well-paying job. And why I often say, when I point out the race hustlers, I'm not saying it because I'm mad at them or I think that they're necessarily bad people. I think race hustling is a great business. All right? Race hustling is a great business. It's a great business to be in. If I wanted to be a race hustler, I would do a very good job of it because I know how to make angles. I know how to defend my points. I'm articulate. I can make a really good race hustler if I wanted to be a race hustler. The problem is race hustling requires you to be devoid of critical thought, and I can't do that. I'm not capable of doing it. So the race hustlers want to act as if somebody died of cancer when Shedeur Sanders got picked in the 5th round, as if this is some type of tragedy. Again, this is the fucking NFL draft. 1% of people play in this league. So while we're on the subject, also when it comes to just getting drafted, the prank phone call. Did y'all hear about this prank phone call with Shedeur Sanders? So what happens when the NFL draft is happening? And he's not the first person to have this happen to him, by the way. Most people think he's the first. He's not the first, and nor is he the only one. What happens is, if you've seen the draft in sports, the NFL is probably different than with basketball. With the basketball draft, the guys are usually sitting right there in the room. And in the first round, the guys who know they're going to get drafted in the first round, usually they go to the event. So when they get picked, they're sitting there and they stand up and they hug all their family and then they walk up to the stage. Shedeur Sanders did not attend the draft. So he was at home just having his own draft party at his house. You see this happen a lot of times in sports. the player will be sitting there on the couch, and his girlfriend is there, and his mom is there, and his high school coach, and his aunts and uncles. They're all around the couch, and then when he gets picked, everybody celebrates, and they got the cameras there and all that. So it was like that. And what happened is somebody got hold of this guy's phone number, Shedeur Sanders' phone number. And he had a phone that allegedly was only for NFL draft people to call him. And this kid is the son of someone who works for the Atlanta Falcons. This kid's like 21. He gets a hold of Shedeur Sanders' phone number. Then the day of the draft, he calls Shedeur and prank calls him and says, hey, I'm the GM from XYZ. We're about to pick you. And Shedeur's like, oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And then they let him know it's a prank call, and they hung up on him. And they posted this video on the internet, and it goes viral. And everybody's getting all mad about the prank phone call as if somebody lost their life. He got prank phone call. What's supposed to happen here? And it's not like the kid who did the prank phone call. He doesn't work for the NFL. He doesn't work for a team. His dad works for a team. All the kid did was steal the phone number off his dad's iPad or something. And then he just used the phone number to do the prank call and just do something funny. Now, would I be pissed off if they did that to me? Yes. Would I be annoyed? Probably. But at the same time, what's supposed to happen here? What are you supposed to do? Take him to jail? What do you want to happen? What's supposed to happen to this kid for the fact that they did this? What do y'all want to happen to him? Y'all put it in the comments. I'm watching the comments here. What do y'all want to happen to the 21-year-old kid who orchestrated the prank call against Shedeur Sanders? Should he go to jail? Should his dad get fired from his job? Those don't make any sense. The punishment is way further outweighing the crime. Doesn't make any sense. Someone said, not a kid. He's a kid. I'm referring to Shedeur Sanders as a kid. 21, 22, you're a kid to me. They're kids. All right, so when I say kid, I'm not saying it to minimize what he did. Again, Shedeur Sanders is about to go to the NFL, so you can call him a man. But at the same time, if we're going to play that game, then we got to call LeBron James' son a man and not a kid. I mean, as soon as you take a professional job, you're a man, right? I don't know what this 21-year-old kid does. But again, what is he supposed to do? Not Billable says Sanders isn't calling for anything to happen. Exactly. That's why I'm pointing out the race hustlers, because they're the ones making this whole conversation happen. So let's see. Board Dad says, where's all the media upset when it? Again, nobody cares. Someone said, drop his scholarship. Who? Why? Why would a school drop his scholarship? He didn't do anything to the school. He did something to some player about to get drafted to the NFL. Doesn't make any sense. Someone said, ass whooping. From who? Someone said the father was fired. No, he wasn't. Nothing's going to happen to him, but his dad will pay for it. I doubt it. I doubt his dad's going to pay for it. Pay for it? Why? What's supposed to happen? Again, it's not even the team that picked him. So I don't think it makes any sense. Someone said fire the dad. No, that's way ridiculous. That's way too overboard. Why would you fire the dad? Fire the dad. Why? What did the dad do? Because his son stole a phone number off his dad's iPad. I mean, what are you supposed to hide your iPad from your 21-year-old son? I don't think so. No, his dad didn't do anything wrong. This is not negligence by the dad. Negligence is if you got a 2-year-old son and you let him out by the pool and you're not watching him and he falls in the pool and drowns, then the dad should be held accountable. But your 21-year-old son saw your iPad open, copied the phone number, and then he went and did a prank call. What are you supposed to do? What was the dad supposed to have done? Where's the negligence in this situation? There is none. So again, this is the race hustlers. And most of y'all who have a problem with the way that I guess you think I'm quote unquote minimizing this or making a joke out of it. Most y'all are the black folks. Y'all are the people who have been influenced by the race hustlers. So you get mad when people don't get all excited about and demand a pound of flesh in exchange for a joke happening to some kid getting drafted to the NFL. What was the negative effect of this? What's the negative effect of what happened to Shedeur Sanders? Maybe he was embarrassed a little bit because he fell for the prank. Maybe he got, I don't know. He was the butt of a joke on social media for a couple hours because he had to wait between that time of the prank call and the real call. Maybe that, but what else? What did this cost him? I didn't understand. I don't understand. And I saw a lot of men saying this too. I saw some women saying it. And often when I hear women saying things about sports that are feelings based and emotions based, I will reply to their posts and say, see, this is the reason why we keep women out of sports discussions, because you're in here bringing your emotions and feelings to the conversation. But I couldn't say that to the women this time because there was a bunch of men saying the same thing. There was a bunch of men doing this. There was a bunch of men with the femininity on this subject right here. So I couldn't even be mad at the women because the men were saying it just like them. You took their face off it. I might have thought a girl said it. So what happens is a lot of black folks, again, racial idolaters is what we call these people. Racial idolaters are people who idolize their race over and above everything else. And when they hear someone, especially someone like myself, actually it could be a white person or a black person, If they hear a black person saying something like what I'm saying, they say, oh, well, you're just trying to say things to appease white people. Okay. All right. Everybody, that's the common response people have when someone like myself says what I'm saying logically. So they go to the emotion, oh, you're just trying to appease white people. Right. While I own my own business, I don't answer to any white people. What about you? You got a boss? You got a job? Is your boss white? The person who signs your check, is they white? Okay. So who's answering to white people, me or you? First of all. But anyway, aside from that, if there's a white person says it, they just call a white person racist. So these are the catch-alls. And if that's all you got to say, then you might as well not even say it, because that's what everybody's saying. You're not adding to the conversation. So I don't know what else is supposed to happen with this prank call thing. Answer is nothing should happen. But let's continue. When it comes to the NFL draft, and by the way, I'm going to take questions and comments at the end. So if you're commenting, I will get to it at the end after I get through my points. We got about, on the clock, we have 33 minutes on the clock. So this is my clock that I use when I'm talking. So I know exactly how much time I got to get through my points. Then I'm open the floor for discussion. The NFL draft is a job interview, in case any of you didn't know. The way the drafts work, drafts in, let's just say, the major sports, baseball, football, basketball, hockey, generally, is not always like this, but generally, especially with the top expected picks, is that the teams will bring players in for interviews, so like literal interviews. So sit down and just talk to them. And of course, they watch you play. You do workouts and all that stuff. And of course, your playing days from college. All of that's part of the resume, but then they will actually bring you in for a meeting and actually sit down and have a conversation with you. And this is a job interview. NFL draft is an interview process where the teams do a whole bunch of due diligence. They find out all about your background. They talk to your high school teacher. They might even go back to talking to your kindergarten teacher. They find out who your parents are, who you hang with, where your family is. They go through all your social media. They see everything you're doing on the internet. They find out everything they can about you, because they're about to make a $1 million investment into you. Sometimes many millions of dollars investments into you. And whatever you end up doing as a player, it weighs on what happens with their organization. And these are $1 billion organizations in the NFL. These are $1 billion companies. And I'm about to make $1 million or so investment in someone who's going to affect my $1 billion company. And the opportunity cost of, if I pick the wrong guy at the number 5 pick in the draft, he ends up not being good. The opportunity cost is how good the player would have been had I picked somebody else. So they want to make sure they've done their due diligence and they pick the right person for the right reasons, who will fit properly within the culture of the organization. All of this is part of the hiring process that applies not only in NFL and NBA, but applies in any job. All of you, when you get hired for a job, at least those of you who are on a career track type of job, I'm not talking about working at Taco Bell, but if you have a career track job, all of these considerations are made when they hire you, and they might not even be paying you as much as an NFL team. They want to know who you are, what's your background, do you have the skills, do you have the mindset, do you have the kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Do you fit within the culture of the organization? Because not every organization is the same. There's some organizations where people walk around in T-shirts and shorts and flip-flops with no socks on. And there are other organizations where they want you in a suit and tie. Do you fit the culture of the organization we're bringing in? Because you may have all the skills, but if you don't fit the culture, they won't hire you. So all of this is part of the job process. And in the NFL is the exact same thing. And when you're going through the job hiring process, one thing everyone should understand, all of you who has ever been to a job interview, you understand this very well. They make the rules. I'm pausing on that because I want to make sure this sinks in. When you go through the job interview process, they make the rules. If you are trying to get hired at my company, I make the rules as to what you need to do, what hoops you need to jump through, what lines you need to step over, and what qualifications you must have if you want to work at my company. Here's all the things you have to do. I don't have to do anything to appease you. You have to do things to appease me. Now, is there a frame in which people who teach job interview process and stuff, and especially if you're a high quality candidate, you can sometimes dictate the process on some level. You can dictate it. So in the NFL, you have examples of Eli Manning several years ago. A lot of people brought this up this past weekend. Well, Eli Manning, when he was getting drafted, he told teams, I don't want to play for you. I don't want to play for you. I want to play for this team over here. He was basically able to dictate the terms of the situation. He ended up going to the team he wanted to go to, which was the New York Giants, where he did what he did because he didn't want to go to other teams. I believe it was San Diego that was thinking about taking him. He said, I want to play for you. And he dictated the situation. And people say, well, nobody had a problem with a white guy, Eli Manning, who had a rich, notably public figure, probably rich dad, Archie Manning, who had played in the NFL. They didn't have a problem with Eli, a white guy, dictating the terms of his situation. So why is there a problem? Because what some people say is that the reason why Shedeur Sanders fell in the draft is because he and his rich, publicly noted dad, and similar to Arch Manning, Deion Sanders played in the NFL, Hall of Famer, both of them, same thing. And This guy's trying to dictate the terms the same way, Shedeur Sanders, but he got penalized for it, whereas Eli Manning did not get penalized for it. Dre, what is the difference other than race? A white guy did it, it was okay. Black guy does it, now it's a problem, and he gets penalized for it. What's the difference? I'm glad you asked the question. Let me answer it. The difference is, I had a photographer say this to me years ago. Probably it was like 20 years ago he said this. He said, Dre, you must be in demand to make demands. I never forgot that he said that. He said, you must be in demand to make demands. What does that mean? That means when you are in a power position of everybody wanting you and everyone wanting you to come into their space, you can start dictating the terms. When, on the other hand, you are the one trying to get in and they are deciding who they want and you're one of many trying to get chosen, you can't dictate terms. The problem that with the Eli Manning versus Shedeur Sanders comparison is the following. Eli Manning was in demand. He was so high in demand, he knew he was going to be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. Therefore, he could look around at the landscape and say, no, 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 yes, I want you. Why? Because he was in demand. So he could tell all the teams who he wanted to play for, and they had no choice but to capitulate to his wishes. Why? Because he was so high in demand that he could dictate the terms. When you're in demand, you dictate terms. When you're not in demand, terms get dictated to you. This is the way life works. Shedeur Sanders and Deion Sanders, if you think Deion has something to do with this, which he probably did, because Deion is an outspoken guy. He talks a lot. I believe when it came to his son in this situation, I believe he talked a little bit too much. That's just my opinion. That Deion and Shedeur miscalculated. What they did was not necessarily quote unquote wrong. They just miscalculated. Deion and Shedeur calculated that Shedeur is going to be a top 5 or top 10 pick. And during the season, this past football season, it was Deion, not Shedeur, but Deion, the dad, who was saying, hey, he alluded to, hey, there's certain teams that I want my son to go to and certain places I don't want my son to go to. This is what Deion was saying. He was saying this during the last football season, that they were already pretty much believing my son's going to be a top 10 pick. So Deion was starting to talk he was getting ahead of the game and saying, hey, we're going to dictate where my son goes. That's him talking. He said we, but he really meant he. That's what he meant, even though he said we. I ain't heard his son say nothing. It's just him talking. And the problem is they miscalculated the wind. They thought the wind was blowing to the left, it was actually blowing to the right. So he missed the putt. Deion Sanders, when he was getting drafted to the NFL, again, those of you who do not remember, those of you not old enough to remember, I ain't this old to remember this, but I remember Deion when he was playing. Here's Deion when he got drafted, number 5 pick in the draft. Deion was dictating the terms of where he wanted to go. And he didn't dictate by saying, I want to play for this team or that team. He dictated it by saying, hey, I'm going to ask for a lot of money. That's basically what he said. Long story short, what Deion said, this is a quote from him. He said, I was going to ask for so much money when I got drafted, they would have to put me on layaway. That's what Deion said when he got drafted. This is 1989. This is Shedeur Sanders' dad, for those of you who don't know who Deion is. All right, he said, I'm asked for so much money, they got to put me on layaway. Those are his words. The reason why he was able to get away with that is because he was in demand. Deion was looked at as maybe the number 1 talent in that draft. He just happened to be the 5th pick because at his position, there are certain teams that needed it, certain teams didn't need it. But he knew he was going to be a high pick because he was highly in demand. It was very clear this guy might be the most talented player coming into this draft. Shedeur Sanders wasn't quite that. It's not that he doesn't have talent at all. It's not that he can't play at all. It's just that he wasn't quite that. He wasn't so high in demand that he should start making demands. And Deion and his son, we'll just say Deion, really it's just Deion. They started making demands before the draft even happened. In other words, as they say, counting your chickens before they hatch. That's what Deion was doing. Deion just misjudged this one. That's all. Doesn't make him a bad guy. Doesn't mean that anybody should be, quote unquote, celebrating that his son fell in the draft. He just miscalculated. He swung and he missed. This is what happens sometimes in life. You miscalculate and you lose. Deion miscalculated, he lost in this situation. Good news about all of this is that this is still the NFL. We're gonna get to that in a moment. But what all of you need to understand is that this is not an equal deal. Okay, when you're trying to get a job, it's not an equal deal between you and the employer. Y'all are not equals, unless you happen to be. Again, even if you are the guy, even if you're Eli Manning. All right, Eli Manning didn't run things. He got drafted by the New York Giants, or he ends up on the New York Giants. He didn't get to tell them what he would do and what he wouldn't do. They still dictate the terms because they're the ones writing the check. The way it works in life, for any of you who don't understand. Dame Dash. Y'all know Dame Dash? If you don't know Dame Dash, then Dame Dash was Jay-Z's business partner. You don't know Jay-Z, he's Beyonce's husband. So Dame Dash used to be business partners with Jay-Z. And they were very popular in the 90s, same time Deion Sanders was doing his thing in the NFL. One thing I heard Dame Dash say is very important. He said, in any business deal, the person who's writing the check is the boss. Oh, y'all heard that? In any business endeavor, the person who is writing the check is the boss, not the person who's receiving the check. You're receiving the check, you're not the boss. The boss is the person who gave you the check. If you're not writing the check, you ain't the boss. And you got to be very careful when you're a check recipient to start dictating terms as if you are the boss, because you're not the boss. And as soon as you take a check from somebody, they become the boss. There's a TV show that was on MSNBC. I think it was MSNBC, maybe CNBC. It was called The Prophet with this guy named Marcus Lemonis. Any of you ever saw that show, The Prophet with Marcus Lemonis? And any of you never saw the show, very simply the way the show worked is that this business will be struggling and they're about to go out of business. And they would apply for this guy, Marcus Lemonis, to come and save their business. And he would come in, he would take a look at the business, he would sit down with the business owner. There's always a small business owner, like an individual, no sole proprietorship, no LLC type of thing. Excuse me. He would sit down with the business owner and say, all right, here are the problems with your business. I believe I can help you. Right now, you owe money. You got to pay your vendors this much. You got to pay your staff this much. You need this much money to save the business. I'm going to write you a check for $700,000. I'm going to write you this check so you can pay all your debts and save your business. But I want you to understand something. This is what he would always say. They always show this on the show. If you take this money from me, I want you to understand something, Mr. Business Owner. I'm in charge. As soon as you take this money from me, I'm in charge. I know it's your business, but as soon as I give you this money, I become an investor, and everything we do moving forward, I make the final call. All right, do you want this money, yes or no? And they show that every single time on the show. It perfectly encapsulates what I'm explaining to you here. When you receive money from someone else, they're in charge. When you're trying to play in the NFL, you ain't the boss. You're a worker. Playing in the NFL ain't no different than having a job at Target in this sense. You are not the boss, and you cannot dictate terms. Deion Sanders, even when he played, he couldn't dictate terms. He had to do what the team said. And if he didn't want to do what the team said, he wouldn't get his money. That's the way it works. You got to follow the rules. And it's not an equal deal between you and the employer. And people tend to want to forget this when it comes to Shedeur Sanders. Right? He ain't that good to dictate terms of getting drafted, let alone is he going to be that good to dictate terms of playing. I saw somebody say that he said something about how Shedeur is going to be when he gets to his team, which is the Cleveland Browns. I'm not sure Deion actually said that, so we're not going to speak about that one yet. I need that one to be verified that he actually said it. I don't think it's true. But attitude counts, ladies and gentlemen. When you're trying to get a job, does attitude count? Of course it does. This is the reason why culture fit matters a lot. A lot of times these days, it didn't used to be like this. Like back in the day, I haven't been to a job interview in a long time, but back in the days when you were trying to get a job, you basically got hired on ability. If you had the ability, you got the job. If they didn't think you had the ability, you didn't get the job, generally speaking. There was no such thing as a culture fit conversation. Did it matter? I think in people's minds unconsciously, the employer would think about it. Does this person fit the culture of the company? Do we think this person is going to fit in with what we're doing? I'm sure they thought about it, but it wasn't like an open thing that they actually talked about. These days, when you hire at a company, culture fit is a part of the conscious outward conversation. Does this person fit the culture of our organization? And that matters. Your attitude matters. Now, what does this have to do with Shedeur Sanders? All right, let me show you that picture one more time of his father. Here's Deion Sanders in 1989. I'm showing you this picture to show you that where they say, how they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. All right, it didn't, because Shedeur Sanders, again, even though not nearly as outspoken as his father, the image and the brand, he has copied this. So if y'all watch Colorado play, I don't even watch football like that, but we know, because this is a big story, that this guy, this is his dad, this is the dad, Shedeur will walk around kind of looking like this. Not talking like him, but looking like him a lot. And when Colorado would win a football game, Shedeur Sanders would go, I don't know where he got it from, or somebody was on the sideline holding it for him. He would go put on a Rolex watch, and then it was after the game. He wouldn't wear it during the game. He would put on a Rolex watch, and he'd walk over near the student section of the other team that they just beat, and he would hold up his watch to show it off to them as a way of just saying, I guess, a middle finger to them. It's just showing them like, yeah, I got the watch. I got this jewelry. What that had to do with the football game? Nothing. But he kept doing it. He was doing it. So in other words, he took a lot of his father's behaviors, but he doesn't quite have his father's talent. That's the miscalculation. That's the miscalculation. I talked about this on Friday when I was giving you other examples. Adrian Broner and Floyd Mayweather. You can't copy somebody else's brashness and style without having their substance, or having more of their substance. The problem with Shedeur is that he doesn't quite have dad's substance, but he has all of dad's style. That's a problem. What does it have to do with anything? Is that culture fit? Organization said, okay, we bring this kid into the team. Think about it. In 1989, when the Atlanta Falcons drafted Deion Sanders, they looked at that. They saw all this shit, and they said, damn, this guy has a lot of attitude. This guy's very cocky. This guy's very brash, and this guy's very flamboyant. And we don't know. Is this going to fit with our culture? I don't know what the answer was to that question when the Atlanta Falcons asked the question internally. But they said, here's what we do know. They said, damn it, this mofo's so good, we're going to pick him anyway. Pay attention. This mofo's so good, regardless of his attitude, regardless of whether he fits in our culture or not, he's so good, we got to pick him anyway. All right, we got to take this guy anyway. And they did. They looked at Shedeur Sanders doing a cheap imitation of his father, and they said, this guy ain't that good. We can't pick him anyway. He ain't that good to get picked anyway. He's good. He ain't that good. So we're not going to pick him anyway. That's why he fell to the 5th round. If you want to narrow this whole conversation down to one thing, it's not racism. It's not trying to humble him. It's not because he has money. It's not because he's confident, which sounds stupid. Every player in the NFL is confident. The player who got picked number 1, he ain't confident. Everybody's confident. None of those is the real reason. The real reason is because they said, given the attitude that he is projecting, compared to his talent, the juice is not worth the squeeze. He ain't that good. His dad was that good. He ain't that good. Good news is, even though a lot of teams pass on him, in the NFL draft, you only get picked by one team. It's not like you can get picked by 10 different teams. You only get picked by one team. Cleveland Browns passed on him multiple times, and they finally took him. I explained this on Friday, is that what you pay for something matters just as much as if you pay for it. The example I gave you, I'll tell you again. If I go to the Toyota dealership and I want to buy a Toyota Camry and they say, Dre, this car costs $20,000. Here's how we can finance it. Here's how it works. Here's the paperwork. Go to the finance. I say, all right, let's go to the finance department and close the deal. $20,000 for a Camry. That's a reasonable price. Let's go make it happen. But if I go to the dealership and they say, Dre, this Toyota Camry costs $250,000. I said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not paying $250,000 for a Toyota Camry. Now, again, what's the difference? I want the Toyota Camry. I just don't want it at $250,000. If it's $20,000, I'm good. $250,000, no way. I'm not doing it. So Shedeur Sanders, it's not that nobody wanted him. It's just they didn't want him at that price. The price of the first round is we got to put $50 million. Somebody threw the number out there. Let's say you put $50 million on this guy. Now, I don't think we're going to risk $50 million on him. Will we risk $3 million on him? Yes, I'll risk $3 million on Shedeur. I ain't risking $50 million on him. Why? Culture fit. Is it because of his talent? Yes, it is because of his talent. Because, again, he has this attitude. He's projected this attitude of being like his dad. Cocky, brash, flamboyant, quote unquote, confident, rich, all these things. Cool. That's who you want to be. Be that. You be whoever you want to be. Nobody in the NFL said, Shedeur, you're not allowed to be that. You got to be like this. Be who you want to be. But if this is who you want to be, okay, this is the price we're willing to pay for that. All right, that's who you want to be? Okay, here's what I'm willing to pay for that. Now, you want to be something else? Then we can have a different conversation. But this is who you want to be? This is where you want to stand? Okay. If you want to stand there, here's what I'm willing to pay for that. And what he got was 144th pick. That's how it works in business, folks. You put yourself out there, you say, this is where I am, this is where I'm standing, this is what I'm about. Then the marketplace says to you, here's what we're willing to give you for what you're presenting. If you put out a different presentation, the marketplace would have gave him a different response. But the open marketplace, rule number 7, 12 work on your game commandments is the open marketplace. Means what? The open marketplace tells you what your value is. You don't tell them, they tell you. What happened with Shedeur Sanders and Deion Sanders is really Deion. Again, I'm not even putting this on the kid. It's not even on Shedeur. I didn't hear him say nothing. Again, this is dad doing all the talking. His dad put him in this position. His dad's the one who said, oh, put on the jewelry, be brash, be bold, hold your watch up after the game. Shedeur, I don't think Shedeur came up with that on his own. Y'all think he just came up with that randomly by himself? Let me go do these things. No, he got that from his dad. His dad put him in a position to carry himself in this way. And now they got to pay for it. Third law of economics, ladies and gentlemen, everything has a cost. There's no such thing as a free lunch. The cost of being that guy is that either you got to be so damn good that we'll overlook it, or you're going to pay for that. He had to pay for it. Deion didn't have to pay for it because Deion was so damn good it didn't matter. Shedeur ain't that good. He's good. He ain't that good. So the cost of him not being that good, but still having the attitude as if he was the number 5 pick, but actually being a number 144 pick, whatever number he was, is that what we're dealing with right now. And that's okay. Actually, let me tell you why that's okay. Because, again, I told you attitude counts. We talked Allen Iverson. When Allen Iverson was the man and he could score 30 points in his sleep, the NBA teams he played for looked away from a lot of the stuff he was doing. What we talking about practice? Or what I got to practice for? Practice is a huge part of being a professional athlete. he talked about practice. He ridiculed practicing, and everybody laughed at it because he was averaging 30 points a game. He couldn't average 30 anymore. Oh, yeah, we talking about practice. I don't average you in the NBA no more. Your career's over. That's how it works, folks. Your attitude can be overlooked when you're good enough for it to not matter, but if you ain't that good, it matters. Antonio Brown, another NFL player, right? Great talent, great skills, but as soon as his talent started to wane and he wasn't so good that we could overlook the nonsense, out of the NFL that fast. Cam Newton, very good player, dominant, MVP one year, almost won the Super Bowl, didn't win, but got there, won the MVP. He was the man. As soon as his attitude started to change, he started putting on the outfits and the hair and the hats and all this other stuff he was doing. And as soon as his talent wasn't so good for us to overlook all the extra shit, he was out of NFL. Attitude matters, ladies and gentlemen. Understand that when you're in demand, you can make demands. When you're not in demand, it costs you something. And when you want to come with that attitude. Here's the good news for Shedeur Sanders, all right? Because there is good news to all this. I want y'all to understand my background is in sports. I come from being a professional athlete. So the beautiful thing about sports is that all the stuff we've been talking about here and the last days when we were talking about this last week with the NFL draft, the beautiful thing about all this, ladies and gentlemen, is that all of this shit can be rendered completely irrelevant. You know how? Anybody know how? Everything we're talking about can be rendered completely irrelevant by one thing. Does anybody know the answer to the question? Put it in the comments. All of this can be rendered completely irrelevant. Everything we're talking about, Shedeur Sanders, y'all got it. On the fucking field, or the court, or the track, or the mat, or the pool, or wherever you play your sport. Beautiful thing about sports, as opposed to the places that most of you work on a day-to-day basis, is that ultimately, as long as you can get your foot in the door and you can get a chance, as long as you can get your foot in the door, eventually you got to get on the field and we're going to see who's who and what's what. He gets to prove himself on the field. Nobody has to like him. Again, Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders had a lot of people who liked him when he played. There's a lot of people who didn't like Deion when he played because of everything I just said. Walking around with all the jewelry and being all cocky and being all brash and talking shit and playing football and baseball at the same time. A lot of people did not like Deion because of his attitude or the way he presented himself or his brand. A lot of people didn't like it. But guess what? When he got on the field, nobody could not like that. Nobody could trash Deion's play. You could trash his talk and his attitude and his gold chains, and he made a rap album and all that stuff. You could trash all that. Nobody can say shit about what he did on the field. Nobody. Even if you don't like Deion to this day, can't say shit about what he did on that field. Allen Iverson, same thing. You might not like his attitude, and we talking about practice, but when he was averaging 30, you couldn't say anything. Cam Newton, you might not like what he ended up doing with the hair and the hats and the outfits and whatever the hell he was doing. But when he was MVP that year, everybody was real quiet, even if you didn't like him. Why? Because performance renders everything else irrelevant in sports. Same way that if everybody likes you, let's say everybody likes you and they love you and you got all these fans and everybody just thinks you're a great guy, but you get on the court and you can't play, you'll be out of the league. Let's say everybody loves Shedeur Sanders. Let's say everybody loved him. What if everybody just says Shedeur is just a beautiful guy, he's great? All these things we're talking about, but let's say they loved him instead of hating him. And people claim that he's hated. I don't think anybody hates him, but let's just say that they loved him instead of quote unquote hating him. And then he got on the field and he was trash. Guess what? He'd still be out of the league. He'd still be out of the league. And what I heard some black people say is, well, Dre, what about Johnny Manziel? You remember this kid, Johnny Manziel? I'm calling everybody a kid. Johnny Manziel. He got drafted to the NFL and he had some issues off the field and he was cocky and brash and many of the same things they said about Shedeur, they were saying about Johnny Manziel. He ends up getting drafted. When was Johnny Manziel drafted? I believe he was a first-round pick. He slid maybe a little bit. He was a first-round pick. And people are like, well, the white people let him get away with it. He was a first-round pick anyway, despite all these things they were saying about him, right? What happened to Johnny Manziel? What happened to Johnny Manziel when he got on the field? Is my question. No, first round, I'm saying, not first pick. I know he wasn't the first pick. What was Johnny Manziel's pick number when he got drafted? And he also went to the Browns. That's right. What happened to Johnny Manziel when he got on the field? This is my question. Again, forget about the draft. Forget about everybody said. Forget about black or white. When Johnny Manziel got on the fucking field, what happened? Nothing. And that's why Johnny Manziel ended up out in the NFL. Because he couldn't play. That's how it goes, folks. This is the beautiful thing about the sports world. I know many of you don't come from the sports world. At least I'm talking high-level sports, like college, pro sports. In that world, in the end, the only thing that matters is if you can play or if you can't play. If you can play, there will be a job for you. And if you can't play, there will not be a job for you. And it does not matter how anybody feels about you. It doesn't matter if you can play. How many athletes do we know that a lot of people didn't like because of their attitude? Terrell Owens played for the Philadelphia Eagles, my hometown team. A lot of people didn't like T.O., but damn it, he was one of the best players in the league. So guess what? Didn't matter that you didn't like him. Allen Iverson, I already told you. So many. Y'all could name names. How many people like Floyd Mayweather personally? Half the people loved him. Half the people watched his fights to see him get beat up. He never got beat up. So you couldn't say shit because when he got in that ring, you couldn't do anything to him. All right, nobody could beat him. So you ain't got to like him. This is the way sports work, folks. Sports work, folks. It's a performance-based business. What does that mean? That means everything comes down to the performance of what you do when you get your shot. Performance-based business. When you're an athlete, all you ask for, or all you want, or all you try to earn, rather, is the best way of saying it, is an opportunity. Just let me get a shot to get on the field, or in the ring, or on the track, or in the pool, or on the court. Just let me get a shot, and if I'm a bum, okay, thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Coach. All right, it's obvious that I can't play here because I just tried, and it's obvious that I can't do it. Okay, thank you for the chance. I'll go walk away, do something else. But if you can play, somebody's going to want you. Somebody's going to want you. That's the way it works in sports. There's a performance-based business. All that matters is what you do. The draft, yes, this is a story right now because the draft just happened. But 4 months from now, May, June, July, August, right? NFL preseason starts in August, right? NFL preseason in August. Okay, when it gets to August, nobody's going to be talking about the draft anymore. All we're going to talk about is the film, the game tape, because that's all that matters. In August, it's only going to be about the game tape. So Shador's on the Browns. From what I saw, I believe they got 5 quarterbacks right now on their sign or on a roster. I guess I don't think they signed their contracts yet, the rookies, but they drafted a rookie right before him. They already got 3 other guys. One of them, Watson, is injured. So, and they owe him a whole bunch of money. And if they end up cutting him, they got to take that hit. They might end up cutting him. We'll see what happens. They'll probably go into preseason with what, maybe 4 or maybe 5 of those guys. And Shador got to beat those guys out. If he's going to play, he got to beat them out. You know how a quarterback works in the NFL, right? It ain't like is you get 2 plays and I get 2 plays. For the most part, it's one quarterback. Everybody else is the backup on the bench, so you never even see them. You don't even hear their names, let alone do you see them. He got to earn it. He got to beat out 4 other guys. One of them's injured, so I guess he got to beat out 3 guys. And a couple of those guys, well, one of them is an older guy. I think Flacco's on the roster. He's older. But then let's say you got to beat out 2 other guys because maybe Flacco's just there just to be like the veteran mentor. Maybe he's not even expecting to play. Maybe he will. Depends on how good the team projects to be. If they project to be trash, they probably won't play him. They'll play one of the young guys. But he got to beat somebody up. That's the way it works in the professional world. You got to beat somebody up. As opposed to the corporate world and the sports world, it all comes down to what we all can see. It's completely objective. Generally objective, let's say. Not completely, but generally. One more thing. Gilly the Kid. Do y'all know this guy? Now, I'm not going to call him a kid because Gilly's actually older than me. Gilly the Kid. Y'all know this guy, Gilly the Kid? He has this podcast called $1 Million Worth of Game. Have y'all heard of this guy? Gilly the Kid is from the same city as I am, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Gilly the Kid used to be a rapper. I remember when he was actually a rapper, and I actually liked Gilly as a rapper. He was a good rapper. He had a group. There was a group in Philly called the Major Figures, who I was a fan of. Major Figures with AS. Gilly the Kid put out this 3-minute video that maybe it was on TikTok. I saw it on X yesterday. And Gilly the Kid was basically saying his general point was that no matter how successful you are, no matter what you do in life, if you are black, you are always going to be just a N-word. That was what he was saying in the video, is that you will just be an N-word as long as you're black and successful. And he told this dumbass story about how he was trying to get a hotel room at some hotel. And he asked for a hotel suite. And the woman at the front desk, I guess a white woman, said, "We don't have any hotel suites." Then he went and got a regular room. And then when he was on the elevator to his regular room, somebody saw him and said, "Gilly, that person at the front desk lied to you. There's plenty of suites available." And his whole point of telling that little anecdote was that because I'm black, they're racist. And no matter how successful I am, I'm always going to be looked at as just an N-word. All right. It sounded like exactly what he looks like, which is a rapper, street guy / rapper who happened to get paid because he is basically a court jester that white people are willing to pay money for because it keeps black people occupied. That's who Gilly the Kid is. And I'm a fan of Gilly the Kid when he was a rapper. I don't really watch it or listen to his podcast or anything, but he sounded like a lot of people, black people sound like. He just happened to have a big megaphone because he's well known for his podcast. Gilly the Kid sounds fucking stupid. All right, that's a stupid thing to say. Unfortunately, there's a whole lot of black people who agree with it. A lot of black people agree with it. Him saying that you're just an N-word no matter how successful you are. This is the same thing that LeBron James said. Y'all remember in 2018 when LeBron James allegedly had the N-word spray painted on his house in LA? This is when he was still playing in Cleveland. So he wasn't even living in the house. But allegedly the N-word got spray painted on his house. He didn't see it. There was no pictures. Then he got cleaned up. And then all of a sudden it became a news story. All of a sudden it became a news story, even though we never actually saw it. Then LeBron's in a press conference saying no matter how successful you are in America, you're still looked at a certain way. And he cross-referenced Emmett Till, which was completely ridiculous. That might have been the dumbest thing LeBron James ever said. He said a lot of things. The dumbest thing he ever said was that when he brought up the name Emmett Till, a kid who was basically lynched and dragged through the streets behind a assault allegation of a white woman, LeBron James cross-referenced Emmett Till when he claimed somebody put the N-word on his house in California. That was completely ridiculous by LeBron. But he said the same thing Gilly the Kid said yesterday. You're just an N-word no matter how successful you are. I never quite understood why people who create quote-unquote success, because they both refer to themselves as successful when they said the dumb shit that they said. Why do black people who become successful often want to tell other black people that no matter how successful you are, it's still not good for you? I never understood that. I never understood why people do this. You're black and successful. Whatever you deem to be successful. You're successful, yet you're telling other black people, it's not like they're talking to white people when they say it, they're talking to black people. Gilly was talking to black people. LeBron was talking to black people when he said what he said. You're telling other black people that no matter how much you become successful, because you're working hard and trying to get to my level, right? This is what Gilly is saying. This is what LeBron is saying. You're trying to get to my level of success. But let me tell you something, that even when you get up here, they're still going to look at you as an N-word. What exactly are you trying to do here? Are you trying to discourage other black people from being successful by telling them how terrible it is when you're successful? What's the intention of saying things like this? This is why I call it race hustling. I don't think they're race hustlers. I don't think LeBron's a race hustler, but he did some race hustling when he said that. It's like, oh, no matter how good I am, it's still terrible. Let me just tell you how bad it is for me, even though I have this success. This is nonsense. It's a dumb thing to say. It does not encourage other people to be successful. And it's this whole woe is me bullshit that comes from black people who don't have a lot of intellectual depth. LeBron James does not have much intellectual depth. You've seen LeBron James is a great basketball player. One of my favorite to watch. He does not have much intellectual depth. Y'all seen the times when LeBron was claiming to have read books? Do y'all think he read Malcolm X's book? Put yes or no in the comments. Because there was a time when I think he was playing down here in Miami. And he was allegedly reading the biography of Malcolm X, autobiography. Y'all think he read the book? Yes or no? Put yes or no in the comments. Did LeBron James read Malcolm X's book? Because what happened is LeBron James, what is this saying? I'm just looking. All right. LeBron James was allegedly reading the book. He would be sitting at his locker holding the book, and people would come with the cameras and take pictures of him. He knew he was on camera. And then somebody asked him about it. Like, hey, you said you're reading Malcolm X's book. No, hold on. Which of these is orange and round? So they got these new captions on TikTok. This new capture stuff. So they said, what do you think about the book? He had to stammer through an answer, and he sounded really dumb. I don't think he read the book. I read Malcolm X's book more than once, and I don't think LeBron James read that book. And LeBron is, again, he tries to put himself as an intellectual, and he has a bunch of people who think that he's smart because of what we call the halo effect. Y'all don't know what the halo effect is when someone is successful in one area, people tend to think that you are when someone has success in one area, people tend to ascribe traits to you that have nothing to do with how you actually became successful in the first place. So, for example, LeBron James became successful. Why? Because he's a very talented, very gifted, and very good athlete. That's true, right? That's why his success comes from being an athlete. But then people think that he's a great businessman, that he's a great intellect, that he's a great intellectual, that he's a great educator because he, quote unquote, opened a school. And they start ascribing all these skills to LeBron James that he doesn't have. He has one skill. He's a very good athlete. That's his skill. Then they start ascribing him to be smart in all these other areas in which he hasn't proven anything, such as being an intellectual. And this is why he's walking around with a damn book that I am pretty sure he didn't read. But anyway, Gilly the Kid, no intellectual depth. And he hasn't even tried. Now, the good thing about Gilly the Kid as opposed to LeBron, see, LeBron tries to portray that he has some intellect. Gilly the Kid doesn't even try to portray that he has intellect. He sounds like exactly what he is, some street Negro who happened to get popular because he can shuck and jive and be the court jester that black people are entertained by. Y'all saw him dancing when the Eagles were winning the games on the way to the Super Bowl. That's who Gilly the Kid is. That's who he is. He's a court jester. In school, we would call him the class clown. That's who he is. He's made himself into the class clown, and he made a lot of money by being a class clown, allegedly. And now, because he did that, Now he wants to tell you about how horrible it is for black people when they're successful. Sounds stupid to me. And I'm disappointed that so many black people are influenced by this nonsense. Oh, don't become successful because look how terrible it is for us. Bullshit. If you want to know why the rich get richer, y'all know how they talk about the wealth gap between black people and white people, let's just say, in America. The reason why the rich get richer, this is my last point here, then we're going to open the floor for discussion. I'm going to take a bathroom break, then we'll open the floor for discussion. Bathroom break only be 90 seconds. The reason why the rich get richer is because look at what just happened here. A black man, Dion, already rich, already successful, already well-known, has a son who is allegedly already rich, on his way to success, quote-unquote confident. They had something happen to them that some people saw as quote-unquote wrong. They were done wrong because he fell in the NFL draft to get this job that only 1% of people get. Look how many average, everyday, $50,000 a year black people got all excited about this. They gave all their time, money, attention, energy, and focus. Not even money. Time, attention, energy, and focus to this conversation about Deion Sanders and the terrible things that happened to him. All right. And they're all caping up for Deion. Like he needs to be protected. Let me ask you a question. How much time, energy, attention, and focus is Deion Sanders or Shedeur Sanders putting into any of the people who are putting time, energy, attention, focus into them? Answer is nobody. Or none for nobody. None of them is coming to your job and advocating for you. Neither of them is getting on the internet and advocating for your situation at your job with your boss, or claiming that you should have a job, or that you should get paid more money, or that you were done wrong because your boss fired you, or because you got laid off, or because your hours got cut. You don't hear Deion or Shedeur Sanders saying any of that for any of the people who idolize and look up to and call themselves, quote unquote, defending Deion and Shedeur. You don't see them doing that for any of those folks, but you see a whole bunch of those folks doing it for them. And I'm not even saying that you're wrong. This is what you want to do. Go ahead and do it. This is the role you want to play that role. What I'm saying is, if you want to know why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, I'm showing you right now. The people who are allegedly already rich get all the time, attention, energy, and focus of the quote unquote poor, trying to help them, but the rich are not doing anything to help the poor. Again, when's the last time you heard Deion or Shedeur say anything about one of their fans and how one of their fans is being done wrong, needs help, should get paid, should have a better job? You never heard any of them say any of that, but you hear a whole bunch of people who are down there talking about what Deion and Shedeur need and what the NFL owes them and how the world is against these people. I thought they were already rich. Rich people need more help from poor people. And when I say poor, I don't mean that you're necessarily poor. I'm just using it as a colloquially to make the point. If they're already rich, why do they need anyone who's not rich advocating for them? This is just a question that I'm asking. Rich get richer, the poor get poorer. If you want to know why, this is it. Rich get rich and the poor get poorer, not because either one of them is bad or good. They become rich and stay rich. They become poor and stay poor because of their habits. One thing that the rich are good at is taking the time, money, attention, energy, and focus of the poor and using it for their own purposes. That's one thing that makes somebody get rich, and is one thing that keeps people rich. They take the time, money, attention, energy, and focus of poor people, and they draw it all out. They pull it out of you, and then they keep it. As a matter of fact, they don't have to pull it out of you. You give it to them. You give it to them. I'm using him right now for my purposes. This is part of my overall work. But what I saw on social media this past weekend was a whole bunch of average and below average people giving a whole lot of their resources to Deion and Shedeur. Again, how much resources are they giving to you? I mean, they're the rich ones. Shouldn't they be giving to you? Why are you giving to them? You're poor. Why are you giving to the rich? I'm just asking the question. Why are you giving to the rich if you're poor? If they're already rich, why do they need you to advocate for them? I don't understand this, but I do understand it. Let me answer my own question here. Answer is, a lot of black people are bought into this concept of trickle-down success. You may not call it that, but a lot of black people have bought into this. Hook, line, and sinker. Trickle-down success. What does this mean? This means, and I've had black people who say this to me when I've criticized them for this very thing. They'll say something like, well, I'm celebrating another black man being successful. Maybe you should celebrate black men being successful, Dre. That helps everybody move up. No, the fuck it doesn't. Let's say I spent this whole life, the last hour, let's say instead of saying what I've said here, I just spent the whole life telling you how Deion and Shedeur had been done wrong. Let's just say that I had done that, right? What is that going to do to help me become successful? How's that going to help me make money? How's that going to help any of you? If there's an answer to this. Somebody give me the answer. How is me advocating for them if I decided to do so? How is that helping me or how is it helping you? Answer is not. But there's a lot of black folks who have bought into this concept of trickle down success. That if you cheerlead for Beyonce or Jay-Z or Michelle Obama and her trashy podcast or LeBron James or Deion Sanders and Shador Sanders, that if you cheerlead for them while you're making $45,000 a year at your job, somehow, some way, that's a win for you because it's a win for quote unquote black people. All right, this is bullshit. There is no other race in America, no other group in America that buys into this concept except black people. Only black people buy into this. You don't see white people doing this. Oh, a white person won, so that means all white people won. No, you don't even hear that. You hear Asian people say this? Do you hear J people say this? You hear Latin people say this? You don't hear any other group say this. It's only black people that do this. And they buy into it strongly. And then they get mad at people like me when I come and say something like what I'm saying right now. Like, I thought, again, they're rich. They don't need your help. Shouldn't they be helping you? Why are you helping them? Isn't that what it's supposed to be? And it's supposed to be tax the rich? Ain't that what you're supposed to be doing? Taxing the rich? Isn't that what AOC and Bernie Sanders said? Tax the rich? Isn't that what Joe Biden and Barack Obama said? And Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris, that the rich need to pay their fair share. Isn't that what they said? They said tax the rich, right? So if Deion and Shador are quote unquote already rich, aren't we supposed to be taking from them and giving it to everybody else? Isn't that what's supposed to be happening? But why is it going in the opposite direction? This is the reason why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. This is the reason why the shit that Bernie Sanders says will never occur. Because it sounds good in theory, but then when you give people a chance to actually practice it, this is what happens. The poor are taking all their resources and giving it to the rich and then complaining about rich people being rich. This is how they got rich. They just make opportunities for poor people to give them everything that they got. And then the poor people are like, wait a minute, why I ain't got nothing? Because you gave it all away, motherfucker. What you think was going to happen? What did you expect was going to happen? You're giving all your resources to the rich, and then you're complaining that they're rich people and you're poor. What did you think was going to happen? What was your expectation from your behavior? Rich get richer and poor get poorer based on habits, not based on any type of environmental factors that are causing people to be a certain way. So if you want to be rich, one thing you can do, as they say, first step when you find yourself in a hole is to stop digging. Is first of all, stop giving all your resources to rich people. If you're not rich and you want to be rich, the first thing you do is stop giving all your resources to rich people. Time, money, attention, energy, focus. Next thing you need to do is figure out how can you create some type of asset that allows poor people to give you everything that they got. Because again, they're going to be poor whether you take it or not. They're just going to give it to somebody else. So you might as well put yourself in line and get some yourself. I mean, this is what it is. You might as well poor people will find a way to get rid of all the assets that they have. That's the reason why they're poor. They were poor before you came along. They're going to be poor after you gone. So you might as well just put yourself in line to take their resources because they're giving it away. That's how it works. So you want to be rich, all you got to do is create something that allows poor people to give you everything that they got. They will happily give it to you. And again, if you don't do it, then somebody else is going to do it. If you don't do it, somebody else will just come take their stuff. Poor is not a state. Poor is not a tangible state. It's a mental state. And it's the reason why poor people are poor. It doesn't matter what you do for them. They're always going to end up back poor because their mindset didn't change. Anyway, all that being said, let me take a quick restroom break. This is going to take me 90 seconds. And let's see. Let me see if I can play something. Let me play this idiot, Gilly the Kid, sounding stupid. Let me play that. Let me find this. Oh, we also played Steven Jackson. Steven Jackson was also sounding stupid yesterday. He got a 1-minute video. Which one y'all want to hear? Gilly the Kid or Steven Jackson? I can play either one. Steven Jackson is a guy who used to play in the NBA. He has a podcast called All the Smoke. I think that show is still out. I don't listen to him either, but I've heard of Steven Jackson. He's another black street Negro who happened to be good at basketball, which I respect. He was a good basketball player. I like Steven Jackson as a basketball player, but intellectually, he has no depth. He has nothing to offer the conversation, but he comes in with these N-word talking points that sound good because a bunch of black people want to hear it. So y'all want to hear Gilly? All right, let's find Gilly the Kid on here sounding stupid. Let me find the post because I responded to it. Here it is. All right, Gilly the Kid's post was 3 minutes long. So I'm going to play Gilly the Kid sounding dumb. All right, here it is. 3 minutes. I'll be right back. Let me take my bathroom break, and then we will be right back to take questions. All right, here's Gilly. He calls himself Gilly the King now, but I know him as Gilly the Kid. So I'm going to call him Gilly the Kid because he sounds stupid. So I can't call him a kid.
Yeah, right. I just want y'all to know when you're a black man in America, right, sometimes you get reminders. You know what I mean? As a successful black man in America, I often get reminders. And in the Shador Sanders situation, this is just a reminder that you can do everything right in life. You can come from a good family. You could be a good student. You could be a God-fearing kid. You could be a hard worker. You could beat the odds. Your dad could be a Hall of Fame player, and you could beat the odds because not too many Hall of Fame players have good kids. So you can beat the odds. You can beat, he ain't his daddy. You could beat all of that growing up. But you still get a reminder that you just a nigga, man. That's it. You just a nigga. We sitting here looking at a public execution going on right in front of our eyes. Where it's like, we just gotta remind you that you just a nigga. There's no other way to look at it. There's a lot of black analysts on TV, but they gotta keep it corporate. They can't say what it is. They gotta keep it corporate. I just think this is unbelievable. No, sometimes as a black man in America, you get reminded that you just a nigga.
This Gilly the Kid.
Don't matter how much work you put in. Don't matter. None of that don't matter. You gotta understand. I arrived at a hotel in Boston, right?
Listen to this stupid ass story.
And I get to the front desk and I say, is there any way I could get a suite? And this lady looked at me and she said, I'm sorry. She didn't press one button. She said, I'm sorry, it's no suites in the building. They're all sold out. As she's saying it, a white man is walking out the back, and she say, Gilly, oh man, I love you. Man, I love what you do for the community, man. You're a great guy. She hand me my room key. I get up to the
what does he do for the community?
When the elevator opened, the white guy's on my floor. And he says, Gilly, I don't know why she told you there's no suites available. Every suite in the building is open, Gilly. Come back downstairs, man. We're going to put you in a suite. But it was just a reminder that you just a nigga. That lady looked at me and said, there's no suites. Before I make this hotel thousands of dollars, I would rather your black ass not be in a suite. So in life, you get reminded sometimes that you just a nigga.
How many times has he said that?
No matter how much work you put in, how much good you do, you're just a nigga. And that's why.
By the way, for those of y'all who know Gilly the Kid's background and his cousin Wallow, they had a show called $1 Million Worth of Game, which is very popular amongst black people. Not me, but a lot of black people like that show. Wallow did 20 years in prison. You know why he did 20 years in prison? Anybody know? Anybody know how Gilly the Kid's partner on his show, Wallow, you know why he did 20 years in prison? Because Gilly's talking about all the good that they do in the community. Do y'all know how Wallow got incarcerated? Armed robbery. So Wallow did an armed robbery when he was like 17, something like that, as a teenager. Got caught, did 20 years in prison for that. And according to what I've heard them say, because I've listened to some of their material in the past. I don't listen to it now, but I've listened to them talk about it. Gilly and Wallow both used to rob people. They both used to be out doing armed robberies. It's just Wallow just happened to get caught. So Gilly's talking about all the good he does for the community. What the fuck do you do for the community? You have no intellect to offer. So what do? You bought some turkeys for Thanksgiving. That's cool. You give some money. I ain't knocking it, but saying that you've done something for the community just because you got some money for being a court jester and now you go and buy some stuff for some broke people in the hood. That's not, I don't consider that doing anything for the community. I really don't. I don't consider that doing anything. What are you doing? Are you teaching people to fish or are you just handing them fish? Handing people fish is cool. Again, I ain't saying you didn't do zero, but all you did was hand people fish. You can't, someone with Gilly's level of intellect is incapable of teaching people how to fish because you ain't got nothing to give them. Like, you can't teach people how to fish. You don't know how to fish yourself. This guy has no intellectual depth whatsoever. And again, it's not about me knocking Gilly. He just happened to be fresh on my mind because that came out yesterday. Is that there are a lot of black people who buy into the bullshit that people like him say. That's the part that annoys me. It's not that he said it. If he didn't say it, some other idiot would have said it. and a bunch of black people would have bought into it. That's the part that really annoys the shit out of me because he's from the streets and he used to be a rapper and he represents what is quote unquote cool in the larger part of a lot of our community, the base level of the pyramid. A lot of people see him as cool and wouldn't see me as credible because I'm going against what he's saying and because of his background compared to my background. They would just listen to him before they would listen to me. And because he's a popular guy with a podcast. Again, court jester. That's what he is. Go look at the videos of him when he was helping the Eagles celebrate their playoff wins on the way to the Super Bowl. That's what Gilly the Kid is. That's who he is. But anyway, I ain't here to bash Gilly. I already bashed him, but I'm not really here to bash him. Let's get to the comments. We got about 40 minutes here. Let me turn my timer back on so we get the time right. Make sure we don't go over time. And one moment, let me set my timer. We got 40 minutes here to get to comments. Let's see what we got. Starting over on YouTube. Oh, dog, good to see you. Said whether or not they attempted to humble him, he's not a likable person. QBs we picked over because they're not likable. As a QB, you have to galvanize teammates. Exactly. That's a very good point. When you're a quarterback, you're the leader of the whole team. So it's not like you're a defensive back. Deion Sanders was a defensive back. He got one job and one job only. He can be as cocky and arrogant as he wants because he's only affecting his position. When you're a quarterback, you're affecting the whole team. So you can't have the attitude of a defensive back while being a quarterback. It doesn't work. Cam Newton, again, this is the reason why his career fizzled, because he started to have the attitude of a wide receiver, but he was the quarterback. It doesn't work. You can't carry yourself like that and lead a team. O'Dog said Deion had a minor league contract for baseball in college. That's how he got money before the draft. Okay, it makes sense. O'Dog said Shador has said plenty of performance and production. Yes. Finally, the truth said humble yourself. Performance outsells self-promotion. Yes, it does. The problem is Shador has very much oversold himself. That's the problem. He's oversold himself a lot. O'Dog said, I doubt he can read green eggs and ham. Dude sounds illiterate when he speaks. Many people have said that about LeBron, and that whole opening a school thing was a farce, by the way. We're not going to get into that today. Anyway, let's see what we got over on Instagram. Then we'll come over to TikTok. Jersey Girl Baby, good morning to you. Good to see you here. Yesterday's prices aren't today's prices. Yes, that's right. Soul Art said that prank call wasn't cool at all. He needs to pay a fine. Well, he doesn't work for the team. So they can't find the kid. He doesn't work for the team. He got it from his dad. Tiffany said, that's wild. That's a 1985 prank calling. Yeah, well, if you get it at the right time, it works. It worked because he got him at the right time. Jersey said, young man will go down in history as someone that cannot be trusted. That's good enough punishment. I don't know about that, Jersey girl. Not be trusted. He's a kid doing a prank call. When you were 21, I remember when I being 21, we did a whole lot of dumb stuff that if it was out on the internet, I don't think that is a reflection of my character as a person. Jersey said, LeBron did it. He also bought players of his choice to teams he played for. Yeah, because LeBron was good enough to do it. The thing is, he delivered on that. On the court, LeBron James has over-delivered. You can't question anything he did on the court, generally speaking. But off the court, LeBron sounds dumb. And he tries to live up to this. Again, he's been ascribed skills that he doesn't have. Michael Jordan never tried to live up to anything other than I'm the best player. LeBron's trying to be a bunch of other things, and he's failed at them because he doesn't have the tools. Belfort Williams, good to see you, said, no player is bigger than the game. The game was the game before you remain. Exactly. Belfort says, great as MJ was during his playing days, there was more money to be made and games to be played when he retired each time. Yes, the game always continues over everybody. Jersey said, Dre, disclaimer, this is all your opinion. Most of the things I say are my opinion. I don't have to give that disclaimer. Belfort said, isn't everyone IG that person's opinion, his opinion? Yes, exactly. So you answered exactly what I just said. Belfort says, it's a shame how many black influencers celebs will happily monetize the trauma of their own people in exchange for money. If you get attention, you have a great chance to convert it to money. Yes, you do. Depending on what type of attention and what you want to do with it. Belfort said, fear is attention. When it comes to getting the attention of black people, the low-hanging fruit is always making it about race. Sometimes it's not valid, but it gets attention. Yes, it's often not valid. But what race hustlers do, they take it even when it is about race and they exacerbate it. That's the problem. That's why I call them race hustlers. So R said he might have read a book, but probably didn't understand a word of the book. I don't think he read the book. I don't think he read Malcolm X's autobiography. I read Malcolm X's autobiography, and I heard LeBron talk about what he allegedly read in that biography. I don't think he read that book. Belfort said, this IG stream is in the Hall of Fame, top 3 of all time. Well, thank you. Belfort said, Gilly was paying bills. When I see notable black people adopt certain narratives and lifestyles that are popular, they're doing it to pay the toll, insurance. Yeah, I mean, their podcast is sponsored by Barstool Sports. Barstool is owned by Dave Portnoy. Is he black? So what is he talking about? And I replied to that video. I made it reply to what he said. And I said, are you just an N-word to Barstool Sports? Because they ain't no black-owned business. I mean, those are the people that made them, quote unquote, successful, right? By investing in your podcast. Those are white guys. So are you just an N-word to them? What are you saying? He didn't respond to it, of course. Belfer said, people that make more money than them owns the lion's share of the infrastructure when it comes to the media. Yeah, of course. King Work said, do you think Wallow is a better influence than Gilly? I don't listen to either of them talk too much, but what I've heard Wallow say is he sounds like he has some intelligence. He has more intelligence than Gilly. I will say that. I think Wallow paid his debts to society by being incarcerated, and I believe he's still on probation until like 2046. It was something I heard him say. He's on probation for another 25 years or something like that. And I believe that Wallow is, given the debt he's paid to society, trying to help other people from not going in that direction. I do believe he's trying to do that. He's trying to keep people from going in that direction. The thing is, if Wallow only had his, and this is a really good illustration, so I'm glad you asked this question, King Works. If Wallow had his podcast and it was just him by himself without Gilly, he would be not nearly as popular as he is. Wallow by himself will not be popular without Gilly. The reason that show is popular is because they have the court jester who is Gilly, who can keep the low intellect people entertained while Wallow is trying to give them the depth. Wallow has more depth than Gilly. Wallow ain't that deep, but he's deeper than Gilly. The thing is, Wallow by himself would not be entertaining enough to draw a huge audience. Gilly is surface level dumb enough to draw the audience of the masses of people, and that's the reason why that combination works. So you got the yin and the yang. You got this guy who went to jail, did 20 years. He's trying to give people some actual depth and some real life game to not go the route that he went. Whereas you got Gilly, who didn't go to jail but was doing the same thing. He's the court jester, keeping all the surface level people entertained with the silliness and the dancing, and that you're still just an N-word. So it's a good combination between the two of them. It actually works out well for them. But if you just want intellect, then you can't listen to Gilly talk. You have to get Gilly out the room and just listen to Wallow. If Wallow is your cup of tea. Now, if I'm looking for intellect, Wallow can't teach me shit. He doesn't know that much, but he knows more than the average street N-word that is in their audience. That's the reason why he comes off as smart for their audience. For their audience, he's a smart guy because most people don't even want to think. From what I've heard, just secondhand experience, when you're incarcerated, you get a lot of time to think. So Wallow had 20 years to think. Gilly didn't have 20 years to think. For 20 years, he was out doing the same shit he's doing now. Now he just got an audience. So Wallow has some depth, but again, they need Gilly to draw the audience. Just depth alone without audience, you're not going to be that popular. You can get an audience. I got an audience, but you ain't going to get that much audience. Anyway, let's get to the comments over on TikTok. I'm picking up where I can pick up from, folks, so I can't see every comment that's come through. But let's get to it. President Borat said racist NFL isn't 70% of the league minorities. Yeah, it might be more than that. And more black millionaires come out of the NFL than any other entity in America, by the way. A lot of people don't know that. So next time you hear anybody telling you the NFL is racist, just tell them that. NFL produces more black millionaires than any other job or career or industry in America. Come Talk Sports says, is all content, brother. The same way you're giving content about the matter, that last point. Yes, I agree. Everything is content. Yes, what I'm doing right now is content as well. But what kind of content are you giving people? That matters too. It's kind of like saying it's all food. Yes, I can feed you fried chicken and Kool-Aid, and then give you some cake and ice cream and some Skittles for dessert. Or I could give you grilled meat and potatoes and some water and give you some fruit for dessert. It's all food, but are they the same type of food? What kind of content you're giving people matters as well. And this is the point of what I was just saying about Gilly and Wallow. The kind of material that they're giving people is surface level nonsense to entertain you. They're entertainers. They're not educators. There's a difference. What I do is more on the education angle. You look up my podcast on the Apple Podcast, it's under the education category. You look up those dudes, they're under the entertainment category because that's what they are. They're entertainers. Entertainment always outsells education. So any of you want to get a huge audience as big as possible, go the entertainment route and speak to the surface level thoughts of the average person. That's how you get a big audience. As soon as you start going levels of depth and intellect, you are shrinking your audience. That's just the way it works. TikTok said leaks of NFL has been leaks from inside. Internally, sadly, gamble sport betting is an issue. Okay, fair enough. Wallace Rocket said Shador held a pro day not for him, but so teams could come see the other players. Right? He didn't hold a pro day. The school and Dion held the pro day. I get what you're saying, though, but I mean, that doesn't really mean anything. Not really. If Dion said everybody come here to see my players, they're going to come because they're all thinking, okay, well, Dion might have some good players in the future. We want to be on his good side, so we got to show up for this one just in case he has a really good player we want to see next year. That's how it works. Ketty, yes, you got it right. The poor make the rich richer. Yes, they do. Sinzaga Williams, thank you. Ketty said, just was talking about this. You're absolutely correct. Yes, it's always been true. Just a lot of people don't think about it on the way that I explained it. Carlos said exactly. Just look at the price of Jordan products. Yeah, that's right. It doesn't mean you can't buy Jordans. A rich person can buy Jordans too. It's just overall, what are you doing with your resources? Are you creating assets, or are you basically becoming a liability to yourself? Donna says, I don't agree. Dion has always advocated for the black community, including Travis Hunter and his mom. Donna Withane, are you joking? Advocating for the players on your own football team is not the black community. You had to be joking making that comment. Travis Hunter for those of you who don't know, Travis Hunter is a black kid who played on Dion's team in Colorado, was better than Shedeur Sanders. He was the number 2 pick in the draft, number 2 overall, Travis Hunter. It was the guy on the team. Shedeur was the quarterback, so he gets more of the credit. But Travis Hunter is a black kid, and what Donna's saying is Dion advocated for the black community. Who's the black community? One football player? Again, you had to be joking saying that. I'm hoping that's a joke. President Boras said Shedeur didn't get drafted because of his poor attitude, period. Well, he got drafted. He just got drafted later than many expected. Brandon said habits. Rich people spend less and invest. Poor people spend usually immediately. Yes, and it's not even so much the act of spending. Rich people spend money too. I mean, who's buying Rolls Royces and $1 million houses and boats? Rich people. But is that they also own assets so that their money is working for them. They're not just giving their money away. That's the difference. TikTok said, wonder how much payment was allowed for this, so prank call risked this magnitude. Nah, what's the big deal about a prank call? King Ali said, rich people use consumers' ignorance. In a way, I would agree with that. At the same time, the consumers don't have to be ignorant. They're just consumers. I mean, again, it's a mindset. And it's not so much that people don't know. It takes discipline to turn around at one mindset into another one. It takes a certain amount of mental discipline. A lot of people are not disciplined. Introverted says, so much substance in this live. Thank you. Hopefully you're not being sarcastic. RDP said, they also take hard work, dedication, and commitment to make their riches. Exactly what I just said. So we're on the same page. Thank you to all the people who are new followers who just joined in this live. Look, they had me on the For You page here today. They had me on the For You page on TikTok today. I think I saw we were creeping up on 500 people concurrently at one point a few minutes ago. I think they had me on the For You page. So shout out to TikTok. TikTok, we good. We're here. TikTok, we are on the same page now. Again, after my many suspensions, we're on the same page again. James Collins said, too many people idolize rich people. Yes, they do. Too many black people idolize rich people. It's not other culture. It's black people who do it. Black people idolize rich black people. And sometimes white people. A lot of black people idolized Donald Trump before he got into politics. Those of y'all old enough to remember, that's 100% true. But they idolize black people who have money. And again, it's all under this unconscious belief that if I celebrate and defend a black person who's already rich, then somehow, some way, I'm doing some good for the black community. No, you ain't doing shit for the black community. Just because you co-sign or celebrate or defend Deion Sanders or Jay-Z isn't doing shit for the black community. All you're doing is idolizing a person who has money. And often especially we're talking athletes and entertainers, what all of you need to understand is athletes and entertainers get their money from the white people that you allege hate them. Where Jay-Z get his money from? White people. Where Deion Sanders get his money from? White people. Deion Sanders worked in the system for 40 years. So he's all of a sudden, people say, oh, well, Deion Sanders broke the system. How the fuck did he break the system? He works in it. How did he break the system? He got drafted to the NFL in 1989. It's damn near 40 years ago. He played in the NFL for a bunch of years, left the football, got into the Hall of Fame. Then he started coaching. So he was coaching. I think he had his own academy for a little while, not too long. Then he was working at a high school. Then he went and got a job at an HBCU, and he worked there for how long? How long was Deion at that HBCU? 1 year? 2 years? At an HBCU. Leaves the HBCU, goes and gets a job at a white university in the state of Colorado. It has like 2% black people. He's been in the system his whole life. People are like, oh, he broke the system, so white people are mad at him, so they had to punish him. Really? Deion Sanders is rich from money he got from white people his whole life. How is he breaking the system, and How are white people punishing him when he literally works at a white college and he spent his whole everything we know about him was working for a white man playing in the NFL? Ain't no black-owned NFL teams. What are people talking about? That doesn't even make sense. Anyway, Jazzy said, I agree with you because my job shut down without telling their employees and now I'm out of a job. That's how it usually happens. Yeah, that's how it happens. Introverted said, this is too real for you guys to understand. Yeah, I mean, it's what it is. Nate Dogg said, it's like trickle-down economics. It doesn't work. Exactly. A lot of people believe in this trickle-down thing, that if we just get more money to the, and it's, again, I'm speaking specifically about black people, is that if we just celebrate this black person's success. Remember Beyonce won a Grammy for the Country Music Award, and people are all getting all excited. I'm like, why are y'all excited about Beyonce winning a Grammy? Who cares if she won a Grammy? Beyonce got a bunch of Grammys. Who cares if she wins a Grammy? What's that doing for anybody else? And that's the black community, we have this is like a sickness in the black community, is that we need to celebrate the rich people. And again, these people are getting money from the very people that you claim to be going against. So Dion is going against the white man when he got all his money from a white man. Jay-Z is going against the white man. He got all his money from white men. All right, Jay-Z don't own the music industry. He has a job in the music industry. Yeah, he has his companies and stuff, but the music industry ain't run by black people. All right, no matter how big they appear to be. And there's a guy named Boyce Watkins. Y'all familiar with Boyce, Dr. Boyce Watkins? I listen to some of Boyce's stuff, and he has a very good angle on this because Boyce Watkins' whole thing is about black wealth. He's all about black wealth and money in the black community. And he's been talking about the Shador thing. I've listened to a couple of his videos where he's talked about this. And one of the things that Boyce Watkins talks about is that athletes and entertainers, he's speaking specifically about entertainers, is that they get paid to be, there's a software that I use called ClickFunnels, and it's owned by a white guy named Russell Brunson. And he often says about himself, I'm going to come back to Dr. Boyce in a second. He says about himself that he has to be the dancing monkey for the company. Now, mind you, there's a white guy saying this. He's talking about himself. So he's not calling black people monkeys. He's a white guy. And he says there's an ownership group in our company, but I'm the face of the company. So I'm the guy who goes out on stage and I do the events and I do all the ads and everybody knows me. He calls himself the dancing monkey for the company because I'm the face of the company. You buy into me. That means you buy into our product and then we make money. What Boyce Watkins was saying was that a lot of entertainers, they get put out front by white people to be the dancing monkey for black people. And then the dancing monkey says, hey, I'm a businessman. I'm an owner. I'm a mogul. I'm rich, et cetera, et cetera. Look at me. Come support me. Come buy my music. And then black people go buy the shit. And we don't even realize that it's white people controlling the whole situation. They're just behind the scenes. We don't see them. All we see is a dancing monkey up front. And he was using the example of people like a Jay-Z, people like a Puff Daddy or P. Diddy, whatever you call them. These type of folks, they talk as if they're running the situation when they're actually just employees. LeBron James, Deion Sanders, these people are all employees. Deion Sanders is an employee of the University of Colorado. Deion Sanders was an employee in the NFL. LeBron James is an employee of the LA Lakers. Who owns these places? What race is the people who own the teams that these guys play for? They all white people. So how black people have been fooled into this whole concept of, oh, let me support LeBron because that's going to go against the grain of white people. It's going to make the white people mad. LeBron James is rich because of white people. LeBron James ain't make his money from some black-owned business. He made his money playing in the NBA. Puff Daddy made his money by having a record label that was owned by a distributor, a bigger company. The Bad Boy Records, when he had Notorious B.I.G. and Mace and all that stuff he was doing, there was a bigger company owned by white people whose names you don't know who owned that whole situation. They gave him a bunch of money. Puff had the money, allegedly, and he was the dancing monkey to get all the black people excited. Because if they sent some white guy out there, we wouldn't have bought it. We bought it because it was P. Diddy / Puff Daddy. He must be successful, which means we should listen to what he says. And listen, I like Puff Daddy's music. But we were hoodwinked in many ways. So again, one person I give credit for, he talks about this all the time, is a guy named Boyce Watkins. Some of you know Boyce. He's on YouTube and he has some good stuff on these subjects. I don't agree with everything Boyce comes out with, but in that angle, I do generally agree with him. For Life said, don't white people do the same thing for Trump? I don't think so. And the other thing about Trump is that he's actually the leader of the country. So even if you're black and you didn't vote for Donald Trump, you shouldn't hope that he failed. You should be happy about anything he does that's successful because whatever he does affects you, whether you voted for him or not. Same thing with Barack Obama when he was president. White people shouldn't have hoped that he failed because he's still the president of everybody, even if you didn't vote for him. So Donald Trump is different because he's the actual president. It'd be one thing if Donald Trump was some TV guy, because you don't have to watch TV. But you live in America, you're affected by what the president does, whether you want to be or not. So that's different than a LeBron James or a Deion Sanders. You don't have to give a damn about what happens in the NFL if you don't want to. But you do have to give a damn about what happens in America if you live here. So that's the difference with Donald Trump. B&E said, what did they get? You're not saying anything. Who are you talking about? TikTok said, figured the NFL Afro players are targets from inside week. Sadly, gambling is dangerous. Sultan said, that's facts. The poor are just consumers. Yes, they are. It's not that they don't never have money. It's just they find ways to get rid of it as quickly as possible. Philly C said, whatever happened to Bernie Sanders' deal to make the work week a day shorter? But that probably require him winning a presidential election, which he's failed to do. So we'll see if he does it in 2028. We'll see if he makes it that far. Brandon said, liberal ideology sounds good in theory, exactly, but this is the real world, and they lie too. Yes, everybody lies. All politicians lie. So you shouldn't believe anything at face value coming from any politician. They gotta lie. Sinzaga says, politically correct thing to say. Yes, it is. RDP said, why can't you just be supportive? Absolutely all other races buy into that. Isn't that WS is be supportive? What do you mean by being supportive? And that's often, I hear people say that, being supportive of Jay-Z or being supportive of Beyonce. That's cool. My question is, when has Beyonce or Jay-Z supported you? I ain't never heard Beyonce. I ain't never see Beyonce in none of my games cheering for me. I don't never see Beyonce in my lives telling people to tap the screen. So why do I need to support her? Now, if I like Beyonce's song, I will download the song and I'll listen to the song. And if I like Beyonce's album and I think she should win the Grammy and then she wins, I'm like, yeah, she should win the Grammy because she had the best album. That's cool. At the same time, understand that we have limited resources: time, money, attention, energy, and focus. If you are giving your resources to something that's not giving you any resources back, you are making yourself more poor by the moment. Do you understand? You only have 5 resources: time, money, attention, energy, and focus. Every time you give that resource away and you're not getting anything back, you are making yourself more poor. Any of you who understands finance, what's the first rule of finance? The first rule of personal finance is what? Pay yourself first. What does that mean? I remember hearing that when I was in like college and I didn't know what it meant. What do you mean pay myself first? And then they said, well, take the money that you make and put it towards something that helps you first. And I said, well, what about my bills? And they said, no, you pay yourself first so that you know you have your money working for you. Then you pay your bills. And then if you ain't got nothing left over, then you ain't got nothing left over. But you got to pay yourself first. If you don't pay yourself first, you're always going to be broke. And then eventually you're going to be poor. And once I finally understood it, it made perfect sense. So when it comes to Beyonce or Jay-Z or Deion Sanders, is that you must take your resources and first of all, pay yourself with your time, money, attention, energy, focus. Then if there's anything left over and you have discretionary money or your assets are giving you money, then you go buy other things. I saw this guy, Grant Cardone. You know Grant Cardone down here in Miami. Shout out to Grant. I've done some work with their team over there. Grant Cardone, he was in the video and he's kind of flashy. So he's hopping out of this big truck. He had like this, I don't know what this was, some truck he was driving. And he was like, I bought this truck with the dividends from my assets. I didn't buy this with just my quote unquote regular money. I went and invested my money in assets that now pay me money consistently. And then I took that money that I got paid from my assets. And then I went and bought toys. I go buy jewelry and watches and cars and fun stuff with the money that comes from my assets. But if you didn't have any assets, you couldn't buy the fun stuff. What happens is poor people just go buy the fun stuff, but they don't have any assets. So they just always spending what they bring in, which means they never pay themselves, why they always are broke. So you got to invest in assets. What is an asset? It's something that puts money in your pocket. And depending on which way you want to talk about it. So some people invest in real estate. Some people invest in the stock market. Some people go and buy like gold. Some people own Bitcoin. You have to put your money into something that could possibly make you money back. Now, just because you invest doesn't mean you want to make money. Sometimes you lose money on an investment. But if you're not doing any investing, you can't possibly make any money back. Your money can't work for you. So that means the only way you can make money is by you working. The problem is there's only so much work any one person can do. And eventually all of us got to stop working because we get old and tired. And when you stop working, if you don't have any money coming in, now you're broke. Now you're dependent on the government. You're dependent on Social Security. And you're 80 years old on welfare, or you're standing at the door at Walmart saying, hi, welcome to Walmart. And you should be retired because you never invested in yourself. So the investment in yourself is the key thing. So how do you first invest in yourself? First investment everybody should make is into your own person, like into your own brain, i.e. buying books, signing up for courses, getting into coaching programs, things that will actually make you a more valuable person so that when you do work, you can produce more money because you're a smarter, more valuable person who brings more value to the marketplace. Then you invest in things that can actually make you money. Again, it could be real estate. It could be, you can start your own business. You can get into crypto. You can get into the stock market. These are not investment. This is not investment advice, by the way. But you got to pay yourself in some way, shape, or form. What I'm saying here, the bigger picture point that I'm making is that a lot of black people who have poor mindsets get so excited to pay their resources to the black celebrity because the black celebrity is famous or they have money or they're quote unquote already rich. What is that doing for you? And some people say, well, isn't that a selfish way of looking at things? Yes, that's a selfish way of looking at things. Success is selfish. You want to know who's selfish? Beyonce. You want to know who else is selfish? Deion Sanders. You know who else is selfish? Barack Obama. Michelle Obama. Who else? Jay-Z. They're all selfish. You know why? Have you ever seen them in your comments cheering you on? Do you think that has something to do with why they're rich? I'm not saying I'm not saying you can't clap for somebody else and you can't like somebody else's stuff. I like Jay-Z. I was listening to Jay-Z's music this morning. But I ain't putting my resources into Jay-fucking-Z. I like Jay-Z, and that's it. That's as far as it goes. I'm not putting my resources into Jay-Z. He ain't putting no resources into me. Again, this is business, folks. Understand, folks, all of life is a business. You are a business. You by yourself, you're a business. If you're not putting your resources into your business, but you're putting it into Jay-Z's business, why is it a mystery to you that Jay-Z is rich and you ain't? If you're putting your resources into him and he ain't putting nothing into you, what is that? What do you call that? Looks like a one-way transaction to me. And that's fine if that's the way you want to play it, but don't act like you don't understand why it happened. Again, and I like these people. I like Jay-Z. I like some Beyonce stuff. I like Deion. So Deion was my first favorite athlete. And when I was 12 years old, yeah, I would get excited about what Deion did in the game, but I ain't fucking 12. So that's what it is. And y'all got to understand this. And I'm talking specifically to the black community because I'm black. But if you're white and this is resonating with you, that's great as well. RDP said, what are you selling? I'm not selling anything. I have things for sale, but I haven't mentioned any of them in this live. I don't do these lives to sell anything. Decide Dick Crown sell. So I guess Hunter and other CU players were rich. Maybe. I don't know. How do you define rich, first of all? And Travis Hunter was the top recruit in the entire nation when he came out of high school. A lot of people don't know that. Based on the way Deion talks, you think Shador was the top recruit. Travis Hunter was the top recruit in the nation when he came out of high school. And Deion recruited him. Travis Hunter got plenty of name, image, and likeness money. Difference between Travis Hunter and Shador is that he don't tell you how much he got. That was Shador's problem. Strategy Brand said, BM denouncing something is a form of protest, not to get rich. Separate issue, JS. I don't know what you mean with that. Sultan said, same reason we got mega churches. Okay, fair enough. Lisa said, glad you are saying what I think. I'm rolling. Good stuff. All right, I'm not going to get through all these comments, folks. We got 12 minutes, but let me see what I can get through. Brandon said, is Gilly just a ringleader? Does he actually believe it? There's a little bit of both. I think Gilly believes what he said. I don't think he was acting. I think he truly believed what he said. But Gilly only has a certain level of intellect, so he can only tell you what he knows. He can't teach you things that he doesn't know. That's what he believes. That's why he said it. I do believe he said that in honesty. I just believe he doesn't have much intellect. So what do you expect? I mean, when you listen to somebody like Gilly talk, you have to set your expectations properly. TikTok said, not trusting all these people because sports betting. You keep bringing up the sports betting. Brandon said, not sure how TikTok friendly this is. Well, TikTok seems to be enjoying this one. So shout out to TikTok. We good with TikTok right now. Terry said, he's so upset a rich man isn't getting richer. Are you talking about me or are you talking about something else? Rosenda said, we don't want to hear this. Let's move on. No, I think people want to hear it, Rosenda. Look at the stats. The stats are disagreeing with you. Keon said, I don't watch Gilly. Well, me neither. But I saw that. I saw that video. That's why I responded to it. See, the thing is, even though I don't watch people like Gilly or Steven Jackson, I don't listen to these people talk when they do their shows because it would be a bad investment for me. I still want to know when they say something that seems to be resonating with a large audience of people because it helps me understand how most people are being influenced. You see, if I just talk to people who think the way that I think, then it's like preaching to the choir, which is nothing wrong with preaching to the choir. Preaching to the choir is a good idea if you want to sell anything. You just sell to people who already believe what you believe. But at the same time, you got to know what the people outside of the church are saying so that you know what you can say that might draw some of them into your world. Because if you want your world to expand, you got to bring in people who don't already believe what you believe, but you got to meet them where they're at. So I look at somebody like Gilly and see the stupid shit that he's saying and say, okay, there are people who actually believe this. Let me go and talk to them so that they can understand why what he's saying is fucking stupid. But if I never do that and I just say, well, they're dumb and never invest in them, then the gap then there's people over here, and there's never a mix. Some of these people can be converted if you can meet them where they're at and you can help them understand why you shouldn't be listening to this guy because he doesn't know what he's talking about. So every once in a while, I will take the elevator down to the bottom floor to talk to people who are listening to these idiots. I say that humbly. So, yeah, robbery. It was robbery. Dear Diary says everyone has a past. That's fine. Again, I said I believe Wallow's trying to undo the bad that he did through trying to help people out who are at a certain level. He's at a certain level of thinking, and he's trying to help people who are at a lower level than him get to the level that he's at. That is a positive thing. I already explained the difference with Wallow and Gilly. I think Wallow is trying. I don't think Gilly's trying. Again, he ain't got nothing to try with. He ain't got nothing. He's entertaining. I think Gilly is entertaining. And again, I liked him when he was a rapper, but intellectually, he ain't got nothing to offer. So he can't try. He ain't got it. See, the therapist says, what does his past have to do with his present? Everything. That's his credibility is that he was in jail for 20 years. That's his credibility. I did 20 years in jail, which in the black community is, I don't know where you're from, See the Therapist, but I'm assuming you're black looking at your photo. In the black community, that's a whole lot of credibility having gone to jail. Is it not? Is it not? Is any black person here going to question that? Come Talk Sports said, you went way off of this Gilly thing. Sounds like hate. I'm out. All right. You can call it hate if you want. Again, this is the black community. This is the reason why I did it. Oh, you're hating. Okay. Like it is says, what is this guy who is he? I don't even listen to people who try to bash another person and show us. I'm not bashing him as a person. I'm bashing what he puts out. I'm bashing the material he puts out to the world. And if you don't want people to bash the material you put out, don't put it out. Somebody can bash what I'm putting out. Interesting said, if you're a basketball player or rapper, they're going to listen to all the nonsense. For the most part, depends on how you present yourself. I played basketball professionally for 9 years. But based on the way I present myself, I don't come off the same way that, let's say, Steven Jackson comes off. And he also he was more famous. Let's say, like it is, says, show us your character, just put out whatever you're trying to promote, stop bashing. What I'm telling you is what I'm promoting. And some things need to be bashed. There's nothing wrong with bashing something if it deserves to be bashed. Again, this is another thing in the black community. When you hold a black person accountable or something stupid that a black person says, there are other black people who will come in and get mad at me, and they'll say, and there's a couple comments I just read. Oh, you're hating, you're bashing, you're talking down on another black man. So the fuck what? If the black man does something stupid, are you not going to say nothing? And if you got kids, if your son does something dumb, you're not going to say nothing to him because he's black? Or are you going to hold him accountable? This is the problem. One of the biggest problems in the black community is our lack of internal accountability. So when some famous black person says something stupid, and then I say what they said was stupid, and I start explaining it, I get black people telling me, you can't talk about him because you're hating and quote unquote bashing. Okay. So if I say nothing and then he teaches you a bunch of stupid shit and then you go out and do something stupid, then who's wrong there? Me or him or you? So I just let you absorb stupid shit and not tell you that it's stupid. Who will be wrong at that point? So again, this is the issue. Sinzaga said, Gilly speaks street, so people understand him. Yes, exactly. He comes off as a street guy, which I believe, according to his stories, he was/is a street guy. And he speaks the language of people who are in the street. And that's the reason why he has fans. I ain't knocking that. That's what it is. But I'm also pointing out that he sounds dumb. Both are true. Keon said, Gilly never made an album. Yeah, well, not one that we know about, unfortunately. And I actually liked him as a rapper. Sinzanga says, money has his own language and law his own language. Very true. 6 minutes on these comments. BK said, am I saying the NFL is racist? Hell no, the NFL ain't racist. How is it racist when they produce all the black millionaires more than anybody? Gian said, Gilly, an unsuccessful rapper turned podcast, Joe Budden too. That's what some people say about him. I mean, I get it because he never got big off rapping. But I'm from Philly. Gilly's from Philly. So I remember hearing a lot of his stuff that was just local, and I actually liked him as a rapper. But I get what you're saying. Like it is said, besides thinking because you have a degree here, the smartest in the room, I don't quite understand what you're saying. What are you talking about a degree? I don't think a degree, the word degree wasn't even mentioned here today. So what are you talking about? Weaver said, how'd the pranker get the phone number? Because his dad works for an NFL team. He grabbed it off his dad's iPad. That's how he got the number. Gaga said race hustlers. Yes. Race hustlers. People who take a topic that they think is racist and they flip it. Ryan said the NFL is racist. LOL. No, it's not. Brian said, you're the man, not LeBron. All right, thanks. Keon said, did 20 years, you can't tell me nothing. Yeah, 20 years. All right, we're not getting through all these comments, folks. I'm going to do a few more, then we'll wrap this up. Question is, what I think about the Shannon Sharp lawsuit. I did an entire live on that. Just like this one, I did a whole live on that, King Ali, last week. You can find it on my YouTube channel. The link is in my profile on TikTok. B said, you keep saying black people have an issue celebrating rich people is more widespread, not just blacks. It is much more pernicious in the black community, and I'm black. That's why I'm talking about the black community. David said, what's my stand on Carmelo? I've done like 3 lives just like this one talking about that. The replays on my YouTube channel is the link in my profile on TikTok. So all these current events y'all asking about, I have talked about all of these things. Just go to my YouTube. And I do these live streams Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern, folks, from 8 to 10. So we got 5 minutes here, then we're wrapping this one up. 8 a.m. Eastern is when I do these live streams Monday through Friday. So if you want to hear me talk about other things, I will. We got other topics on deck. This topic kind of bumped things back. So we got plenty of topics coming. Every day I do this Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. Let's see. All right. I answered about the Shannon Sharp. David said, do you believe black community has a problem with accountability? Hell yeah. Internal accountability. Not accountability from outside the black community, but holding each other accountable. And yeah, I just gave you an example. I'm pointing out something stupid that a famous black person said, and there's a bunch of black people getting mad at me for calling it out. And they're saying I'm quote unquote hating. I'm not hating. I'm saying he said something stupid. Let's see. Like I said, they had the same mentality with Trump, which is why they voted for him. Who's they? Who are you talking about? B said, you're double talking. Some whites supported Trump because he was a rich white. So the way you're saying that, I'm assuming that you're not white. So how do you know why they supported him? That would require your ability to read their minds. Hugh said, how long before AI replaces most of the workforce and where do we go from here? Well, it's starting to happen right now. Where do we go from here is that you got to learn how to leverage AI instead of competing against it. I talked about that on my podcast. I have a show called Work on Your Game. Comes out every day. It's about 20 to 25 minutes per episode. It's just me talking. Comes out every single day. It's on Apple and Spotify. It's called Work on Your Game. You look it up on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Let me see if I can. I'll pull it up here so y'all can see what it looks like. It's right here. It's called Work on Your Game. You can find it on Spotify. This is Spotify. You can also find it on Apple Podcasts. It comes out every single day. It's free. Today's episode is 30 minutes long. Marketing things that you should know. I did a 6-part series on marketing. So if you want to hear me talk about more evergreen stuff like business, personal development, mindset, personal growth, leadership, communication skills, that's on my podcast. You want to hear me talk about current events, like stuff happening in the news, that's what I do on these lives. So we got a space for everything. So Hugh, you're asking a good question, but AI is about to replace a whole lot of people. A couple more comments and we got to go. Directed said, Hormozy says, invest in the SME 5,000 instead of the S&P 500. He's right. Yes. First investment is in yourself. Then once you get to a certain level of production, then you start investing in like assets that you can own. But you got to make yourself valuable first. Make yourself worth some money so that you actually have some. Joe said $500K or dinner with Jay-Z. That means dinner with Jay-Z is worth $500,000. That's an easy question. I'm taking the money. And I don't even need to talk to Jay-Z. Senzaga said, you're not selling anything. You're trying to break the chains on the mind. A little bit. I'm trying to break the chains a little bit, but you can't put your whole life trying to break the chains on minds because that'll lead to a very frustrating existence in my experience. I preach to the choir and I try to preach to the heathens a little bit at the same time. I don't mean religiously. You're talking about Gilly. Okay. Deanna said, living in ATL, everyone always plays the race car first. So tired of it. Well, Deanna, wherever you go, it is going to keep happening. So don't leave Atlanta thinking that it's going to stop happening. TikTok said, using prison, we call it street cred. Yeah, that's what that's what the black community does. I don't think he went to prison on purpose to get street cred, but he is leveraging that. He spent 20 years there, so he got to talk about it. Same way I tell you I play sports. You use your background, whatever it is. Average Joe Vet said 80% of draft picks were black. Nothing racist about it. Yes, exactly. So it's ridiculous when people say that the NFL or the NBA are racist when most of the players are black and they're all most of them making millions of dollars. Sinzaga said, you sound educated. That's the problem. Yes, also. And because I'm sitting here in a suit and I'm talking articulately and I'm challenging some of the things that a lot of average street Negroes buy into and believe, and they believe their whole lives, I'm going against it. Of course, they're going to push back. Mr. Ohio J said, right, just because I'm black don't mean I got to fall in line with the BS. Exactly. But if you come out publicly saying that, then you're going to get a bunch of black people pushing back against you. So I get this every day. When I'm on X, which is where I can textually engage, I get pushback from black people all day, every day when I go against even that guy Gilly. That video that I let y'all listen to, I posted a retort to the stupid shit that he said, and a bunch of black people were pushing back against me. Most of them are bots, but still, just the fact that they're pushing back, this is what happens. Tomorrow's topic. Well, the thing is, we don't always know tomorrow's topic because something might happen that causes me to change the subject. So, for example, I had no plans on talking about the NFL draft because I really don't give a fuck about the NFL draft. But because this was such a big story, I talked about it for the last 2 days. So, currently, tentatively, everybody, the topic tomorrow, we're going to talk about the student loan issue. Student loan forgiveness. Should the government forgive student loans and let people not pay if you owe money? Or should they force people to pay the money? What y'all think? Yes or no? Should student loans be forced to pay? That's not going to change whether I talk about it or not. But that topic is on deck. And the deportation issue with Tom Homan and the new borders are and deporting people out of America, that one is on deck. So those are two topics that are on deck. But the Shannon Sharp thing bumped those topics back, and this NFL draft thing bumped those topics back. So I would have did these last week, but if something happens in the news today, then that was going to be the topic tomorrow. So do not hold me to this one that this absolutely will be the topic tomorrow. It is tentatively the topic. But if something else happens in the news, I hold the right to change the topic. But the schedule will be the same, 8 a.m. Eastern to 10 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. So if you like this one, come back tomorrow. We don't know the topic. Again, I have a planned topic, but that might not be the topic. And if you didn't like this one, come back tomorrow. If you think I'm smart, come back tomorrow. If you think I'm a hater, come back tomorrow. You think I'm just trying to sell something and I didn't even tell you what it was, come back tomorrow. If you think I'm not trying to sell anything, come back tomorrow. Make sure you follow me on YouTube. That's where you can see the replays of all these live streams. I'm live on YouTube right now, by the way. I have 7 different streams going at the same time right now. So I'm live on YouTube over here. The replays are always on my YouTube. I'm also on Instagram, so make sure you follow me on Instagram, follow me on YouTube. If you want to learn more about what I do professionally and work with me as a coach or consultant or trainer, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. So Art said I have a week break from school, so I'm excited to hear these topics. Great. Well, you always watch the replay, so Art. So even if you miss the live, you can catch the replay. So we will see what the topic is tomorrow. TBD, to be determined, is the topic. I appreciate all you coming in. Shout out to all the new people. Shout out to my consistent folks who are here all the time. I see a bunch of you in here. Carla, I see you. Marky Man, I see you. Courtney, I see you. Kelly, I see you in here. A bunch of you I see in here consistently, so I appreciate you all for being here. China, I see you in here as well. I will see you all tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. Again, I tell you, we like to end on time. We don't like going overtime anymore. 10 o'clock, y'all can mark your calendars and mark your schedules around 10 o'clock. This being done. Everybody have a great Monday. Work on your game. See y'all tomorrow. We out.